guys ready? Good. The meeting of the Board of Adjustment for the Borough of Somerville, please come to order. Adequate notice of this meeting as required by the Open Public Meeting Act has been that on January 21st, 2026, a copy of the notice specifying the date, time, and location was posted on the bulletin board outside of Borough Hall, given to the clerk administrator, mailed, faxed, or emailed to the Courier News, and posted on the Borough website. If any member believes that this meeting is being held in violation of the Open Public Meeting Act, please state your views at this time. These proceedings are of a judicial nature. Only those items on the agenda will be commented on or questions responded to. Next item, roll call, please.
Chairman Art Adair,
Here.
Ed Allett,
Here.
Roberta Karpenitz,
Here.
Morgan McLaughlin, Rich O'Neill,
Here.
Brian Vidimski,
Here.
John Flores, Eric Alvarez,
Here.
Stuart Daniels.
Here.
Would someone like to move that his absence be recorded as excused?
I'll move it.
Second.
Moving second, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, next item, pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Jason,
Next up, we have minutes.
someone like to approve the minutes of the last meeting?
I'll move them.
Moving second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Resolutions?
First resolution we have is 2025-002Z, 2 Fairview Avenue, Block 51, Lot 24.
I'll move it.
Moved.
Second.
Second, any discussion? Roll call, please.
Not everyone was eligible for this one.
Right.
So, if Art Adair,
Yes.
Morgan McLaughlin,
Sure, I was there. You have it down that I was there.
for the minutes. or-
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I have it on here, sorry. Rich O'Neill,
Approved, yes.
Eric Alvarez.
Yes.
Okay, it's carried. Next resolution?
Next we have 2025-020Z, 15 Van Doren Street, Block 5, Lot 11.01.
I'll move it.
Second.
Moved and second, any discussion? Roll call, please.
Chairman Art Adair,
Yes.
Morgan McLaughlin,
Yes.
Rich O'Neill,
Yes.
Eric Alvarez.
Yes.
Okay, carried. I think part of the problem is we've been meeting so frequently, we forget.
Yeah. Well, that was an amended resolution, too.
Right.
Yeah.
But we're getting to the point where we're gonna be going back to one meeting a month,
Yeah.
hopefully, or, okay. Next item,
Can we proceed without an attorney?
we're not, he's in the parking lot.
Oh.
Okay, we'll take two.
He's tiptoeing through the raindrops.
He's waiting for the Knicks. Although he's a Philadelphia guy. How anybody can be that, I don't know.
Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that.
Not since Julius Irving, Wilt Chamberlain. And my favorite, AI.
Artificial intelligence?
Yeah. Alan Iverson.
I think that you change that name because we've been functioning around this world with artificial intelligence for years.
Decades. I just keep going back to that movie in the 70s, Colossus the Foreman Project, where a Russian supercomputer and American supercomputer linked up. Oh, God. Okay. We're just waiting for our attorney. But we can start. First is our, who's on the agenda tonight?
We have the hearing for 2025-018Z, Nan Realty Holdings LLC, 79 Route 206, Block 124, Lot 1.01.
Well, he can make his appearance. No, Cliff has to swear him in.
Yeah, we'll He's close by, right?
Shouldn't expire.
Obviously, there's a parking lot.
No, okay. I hate to say it, we're gonna be discussing another piece of property that I remember the cows being on.
Or going under the highway
Well, yeah.
to the Minuteman. Dude, those were the good old days. Okay, Cliff. For those who don't know, that piece of property was a restaurant there called the Minuteman. And before that, it was cow pasture. And the cows would literally go under there's a tunnel under 206. And they would go under 206 to the other side where their pasture was. And then as we got older and discovered that, that's how we would go over to the Minuteman, go under the highway. The good old days.
Art, there's no new testimony after midnight? Is that the rule?
No, there's no new testimony after 10 o'clock. And there's a break at 8:30, right, Mike? You gonna let me know? Nope, I learned a long time ago, these long meetings, the mind can only absorb as much as the behind can endure. If you're sitting in these chairs for 5 or 6 hours, you're not getting it.
Here's what you're talking about. Yeah, that section with the architecture.
My apologies, everyone.
No problem.
I got a little drowned on the way to my car, and then, much to my dismay, some traffic lights were out on Route 539. I was driving over from Princeton, and I had a detour around back through Hillsborough, Delmead, Hillsborough. So I apologize. I
Nope.
tried. I did everything I could to make this.
No problem.
All right.
Okay. Start.
Okay. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Good to see everybody again. Jason Tuvel, attorney for the applicant. This is an application for 79 Route 206, Block 124, Lot 1.01. Property is currently vacant, in desperate need of an upgrade. It's a former diner location. The property is located at the border of the borough of Raritan and the borough of Somerville. It's literally on the border. The property is located in the B6 zone. The applicant is proposing a self-storage facility that is not permitted within the B6 zone. However, other uses of a commercial nature, which are much more intensive from a traffic and parking perspective, are permitted within the zone. The zone also permits 15 stories and 160 feet. So the zone contemplates development on these properties that is of a commercial nature to promote commerce in the area. Our project is a 5-story, 72-foot self-storage facility. It's 86,000 square feet, climate-controlled facility where you would have store your personal items. Maybe a small business would use it. Operationally, it would be open from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. for anybody who was a customer. The office where you would either sign up or buy some packages would be open from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. They usually have 1 to 2 employees per shift. Just some things worth noting about the project that you'll hear during testimony. The allowable coverage in the zone is 70%. The application is proposing a little bit over 31%. Like I said, again, the height permitted in the zone is relatively high at well over 100 feet. The applicant is proposing 72 feet and 5 stories. And the rear yard setback, which is required, is 64 feet. We're at 80 feet. Another thing worth noting that I think is critical to the application, and our engineer and planner later on in the process will talk about this. If you were to build pursuant to the ordinance in conjunction with the wetlands that are adjacent to the property is not buildable without variance relief. So there needs to be variance relief to build on this property based on its size, shape, the current zoning, and the constraints that are on the property. So you'll hear a little bit more testimony on that than you might normally. Like normally, I don't go hardship when I justify variances very often. But in this situation, you'll hear testimony about how the site and the surrounding area does present a hardship for the applicant with respect to just any buildable lot or footprint on the property. So I have 3 witnesses here. The first witness I'll call, Mr. Chairman, is Paul Much from Stonefield Engineering and Design. He's our project engineer, civil engineer. I also have our project architect here, Paul Schwartz. And I also have our traffic engineer and professional planner, Matt Seckler from Stonefield Engineering and Design. But let me just kind of preview the order, the batting order, so to speak. I was going to have Paul start doing civil engineering, go through the site and the site plan. Then I was going to have Mr. Seckler testify on traffic only, have the architect come up, obviously depending on how far we get. And then I would have Matt come back as the planner later, because the planner should really testify after all the evidence and the other testimony has been put in. But Mr. Seckler will be wearing 2 hats as it relates to this project. So with your permission, Mr. Chairman, I would respectfully request if I can call my first witness, Paul Much from Stonefield Engineering and Design, who will qualify as a civil engineer.
Mr. Chairman, I wanted to indicate that I have, there had been some confusion about this. I have reviewed the notice that was provided for this application and have reviewed it, and it is acceptable as the Ford and Foreman content, and the board can exercise jurisdiction over this application.
Thank you.
Okay, do we want to swear in the first witness?
Yes,
Okay,
I swear the witness.
sure, go ahead.
Please raise your right hand. You solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Please state your name and spell your last name for the record.
Paul Much, M as in Mary, U-T-C-H.
Mr. Tuvell, your witness, please qualify him.
Sure, no problem. Paul, if you could give the board the benefit of your qualifications, educational background, licenses held, and experience testifying as a civil engineer in the state of New Jersey.
Certainly, I am a licensed professional engineer in the state of New Jersey. My license is current and in good standing. I've graduated from Rowan University with a bachelor's degree in civil engineering. I've been practicing the field for roughly 14 years with specific experience on applications similar to the one you'll see this evening. I've been accepted by more than 100 land use boards in the state of New Jersey. And
Can you name 3?
What was that?
Can you name 3 locally?
This board, I've been accepted by Toms River as well as Hillsborough. I can go
So
on.
if we accepted you before, we accept you again.
Excellent.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So Paul, why don't we just get started by going over the existing conditions and some of the unique features of the property that drove the design that you prepared for this evening?
Yeah, certainly. And how do I get this computer to share the exhibits on the screen, or is somebody else controlling that?
I always
Look
ask
at
my
this.
teenagers.
Somebody under the age of 35 always has to run the technology.
Yeah, so the exhibit that is on the screen currently is an aerial exhibit prepared by my office dated May 20th, 2026.
So we should mark this as A1?
That's correct.
That works. So I'll echo what Jason had provided on the record. We're looking to revitalize a long underutilized lot and something that is certainly in desperate need of redevelopment. Many attempts over the years have been made, many ideas, including my office has made a couple of attempts to find something that would fit this site as well as as what the board may be looking for. We think this might be the answer to the question of how to develop this very, very unique lot. So as you'll see on the aerial, we'll go from a macro standpoint at first. And just to note, all of the exhibits this evening, north is going to be on the left side of your page rather than due north. So as I refer to things in north and west, I'll try to keep everybody organized from that perspective. But from our northern side or left-hand side of the page, as well as to the west or the bottom of the page, the site is entirely encompassed within commercial development, shopping centers, commercial developments in general. We have the ramp to our south or page right, and then there's essentially a permanent undevelopable buffer to the north and east of the site, which you see in the wooded area, which is encumbered by wetlands, flood hazard areas, streams, and things of the like. So as you look at the existing footprint of development that you see on the screen here, that is essentially all that can be done on the property. Everything else is encumbered by DEP regulations, and several DEP permits will need to be secured to develop the lot, even within the existing footprint. And I'll get into the reasoning for that as we go. So if you look at the center of the site, there's sort of a rectangular area. That is where the old diner stood. We just have sort of the remnants of that development existing on the site today. There are substantial wetland, DEP, flood hazard areas that impact the site. The wetlands kind of encompass the edges of that existing footprint, and since the changes in the DEP flood hazard area rules that increased the flood elevations in New Jersey, the entire site went from being just on the fringes of the flood to fully within the flood. So we had to take that into consideration as we looked at this development. It actually changes from developments that you've seen on this before. Those developments are no longer really feasible here because of those new DEP regulations. So you have to find that balance of a unique site and a unique use, and I think we've done that this evening. And with that, I'll go to the next exhibit that I have prepared. We'll label this exhibit A2.
Yeah, and just identify it and who prepared it, Paul.
Yeah, so it is a colorized site plan rendering. It is simply a color version of the plan that was submitted as part of this package. We've taken the liberty of adding color as well as some of the landscaping to give the board, at least in a 2D sense, what we're trying to do. And then you'll see some really excellent 3D renderings from our architect as we move through the application this evening. So the first thing you'll notice is that this is a very unique lot and a very unique development, and I'll try to kind of unwind that uniqueness as we move through. So I just want to highlight and talk about at first that developable footprint that Jason alluded to in his opening. If you take into all of the setbacks associated with this lot, which you can see briefly with the blue outline, the setbacks that are permitted by the code include 150-foot setbacks off the frontages of the two roadways, as well as side and rear yard setbacks that make this very small triangle you can faintly see as the only developable footprint on the lot due to the zoning code and just the uniqueness of this lot.
Just outline that again, Paul.
Yeah, so it's in the rear and it's in this area here. This triangle is the only building footprint that you could build within without a variance. And it's unique here as well. The vast majority of that footprint is actually in the wetlands, and you wouldn't be able to develop it anyway. But from a zoning perspective, the only developable footprint without variances is that very small triangle. So that's why you'll hear our planner get into the discussion of that as we move through the application. In addition to the zoning code limiting the property, the DEP restrictions also limit what we're able to do. Like I mentioned at the beginning in the aerial view, you really can't go outside the existing footprint of the development. which is why you see the unique shape and size of this building.
And Paul, when you say the development, just to be clear, the area that's already improved with pavement, is that fair to say?
Yes, that's correct. So essentially, the extent of the development that you see along the wooded portions aligns with the existing pavement line, plus or minus in here. There'll be some minor DEP permitting and negotiation for the development, but we've essentially stayed within the footprint of the existing development and will secure permits for that. There's no other developable land. Anything outside of what we're showing here is entirely encumbered by DEP restrictions that there are no permits to go further into the woods or build anything further into the wooded area. What you'll see is as we move through is that there is a darker rectangle that represents what's going to be on the ground floor of this development. That ground floor piece is 5,040 square feet, which mimics the size of what was the former diner. And that is intentional, and that is as large as you can be on the first floor to comply with DEP flood volume requirements. We're essentially allowed to replace the flood displacement of the old building with the new building on the ground floor. So you'll have office area, a few roll-up self-storage areas, as well as the elevators and things of that nature to get to the top. There's not a lot going on in that footprint at the bottom because we are encumbered by the flood. Those new flood regulations put the entire site between 0 and 2.5 feet of floods with the new regulations. So then above that, and the uniqueness of this lot continues, is that all of the operations will occur under the building, and essentially, like you see in some of the parking garages in the area, above that is that unique trapezoid shape that totals 20,175 square feet, and that encompasses floors 2 through 5. You heard that we're allowed to have 15 stories. It's not how high we're looking to go here. We have 5 stories, 4 above the ground, and the operations of the site occur below the building. So we have a gross square footage of 85,740 square feet when you add all the floors as well as kind of that office area at the bottom together. Now, I already mentioned that the shape of the building was dictated by the DEP, but we also obviously had to take into account and strategically position the building as well. There's only so much area here that you can build a building. So what the front line of that building essentially does is it mimics where the diner is, plus or minus a few feet. And what we've done with it is as we looked at the corridor, obviously when you have a front yard setback, you want to ensure you're not impacting that corridor. I think on Route 206 we are not with some of the landscaping I'll discuss. And then we also looked at the property to the north, and we wanted to make sure that we weren't limiting the visibility in a way that would degrade the safety of the corridor. What we're fortunate to have is that shopping center to the north has an ingress-only driveway at the very north end or page left, and their egress is at the bottom. So visibility, safety of those driveways aren't impacted by our building having the requirement to be closer to the road due to the restrictions on the site. And our traffic engineer, as well as our planner, who is wearing 2 hats this evening, will get into that as well as we move forward. Access for the site is we are essentially reusing the existing access that exists today. We're just visually restricting and adding in landscaping to kind of channelize those driveways a little bit more. So there'll be a full movement driveway at the southernmost corner, or that kind of page right on the development. That will give the main access to that customer area. There's 6 parking spaces on the right that are intended for those customers that may need to pick up a box or 2 or sign up for a unit. And then as you move around the building in a counterclockwise motion, there is also maneuverability area back there for trucks, loading vehicles, anything that you would bring on a U-Haul truck, things of that nature. And those 8 spaces behind the building are directly associated with those roll-up type door units that you see at sometimes you can see them from the roadway on other self-storage developments, but on this one it'll be tucked away under the building. They're kind of just direct access units. It's a key feature of self-storage developments throughout New Jersey.
And Paul, just to be clear, everything that's in the darker, I'll say orange, that's the square, that's the first floor, which is the 5,000 square feet.
Correct.
And then the trapezoid, which is in the lighter tan, that is all still the building, but the parking area and drive aisles are all underneath a ceiling, which is that building, correct?
Yeah, that's correct. If you just in your mind transferred that lighter orange to gray, it's pavement under there. If you got rid of the building above, that's simply a parking lot. And the maneuverability in the rear is important. And then customers are able to load in at those near the office entrance, which is essentially where that ADA crosswalk comes across the drive aisle. They're also able to access the elevators from the left-hand side of the building in that striped area where you can either pull down or back down your vehicle and access the elevators from that location as well. And again, everything is kind of housed under the building. As you move through the site and you kind of come out, there's a exit only driveway on the leftmost side. You see that in the gray on the left side of the site that allows for that option that if you want to egress that way, passenger vehicles can take that movement, but you also have the option to go back to the main full movement driveway on the right to exit the site in the same manner. So providing options for people as they navigate underneath the building. And then our trash is located at the northwest corner, or that, I guess, the top left corner of the page. It's our intention for the trash truck to access that and then leave via the egress-only driveway on that side of the building. All of this will be subject, the access at least, will be subject to DOT approval. We've had those discussions with them already, and our traffic engineer will get more into that as we move through the application. A focus of the application, in addition to just the physical engineering, was the aesthetics and look of the site from that Route 206 corridor. And the intention of the landscaping plan is to provide an aesthetic planting to complement some of the architecture that you'll see 3D renderings of as we move through the application, and also enhance and replant the rear. It's not shown on this property, but there's plants proposed in the rear as well that will be subject to some DEP permitting and regulations in the rear. So what we're looking for is to really have a highly aesthetic building and landscaping plan along the Route 206 corridor to just increase that. If you drive past the site today, the site is in rough shape, and we're looking to bring kind of a really, really nice looking site, a nice looking aesthetic to that. So the intention is to provide year-round visual interest at the front with different colors and things like that, to make sure that we're enhancing that frontage. And then obviously we have the permanent buffer that you see in the aerial and the wooded area to the top right of the page. We discussed the stormwater management plan with your engineer today. He is looking for us to upgrade that stormwater management plan to go above what the DEP requires, but comply with the borough ordinance, which has more strict restrictions on the difference between a minor and major development. So we intend to fully comply with those comments as well as all of the comments in the engineering letter, but there'll be some upgrades made to the stormwater management system to better detain water on site before we release it to the rear of the site, which currently we were just collecting and releasing it. We'll hold some water on site in the future to comply with the borough regulations for stormwater management. Lighting on the site is also unique here. It's one of those sites that probably has the minimal impact on adjacent neighbors. Fortunately, we're in a commercial area. We don't have to worry about residences, but all of the lighting is proposed under the building or some minor wall lights on the exterior. No area lights. You won't get that kind of glow from a commercial development you would normally see. Everything is going to be focused underneath this building and screened, and you'll see the architectural elevations and how that screening is handled. So it'll be a very, very low impact site from a lighting perspective, and those lights will turn off in non-business hours other than security lighting as we negotiate and kind of work through that piece as well. The utilities for the site are mostly straightforward. We have water, electric, and gas at the front of the site that we intend to connect to. The unique aspect where it continues for this site is that the sewer service for this is not located in Route 206. The former diner was utilizing a pipe that's through an easement on the adjacent owner's lot. That pipe has been cut and capped today, but we intend to reuse that direction and connect into that pipe that then continues on beyond our site and moves to the, I guess we'll call it the east or the top of the page. We've had discussions with that neighbor. We actually have their grading utility plan so we can see exactly where the manhole is that we'll be connecting to. And what we've discussed with them is we're not looking to make the connection in a way that will disturb their construction. You can see that we got a pretty recent aerial where the construction is in progress on the Dunkin' Donuts. Our intention is to not run a sanitary sewer line after they have everything in place and tear up any of that construction. So we're going to work on that with the neighbor and make sure that we're connecting in the right space, and we'll also be discussing with the MUA on the best place to connect to ensure minimal impact to reestablish that connection for the site. There's no other connection that we can provide. The fortunate piece of a self-storage use, and it kind of leans a little bit into the engineering letter, is that this is an extremely low producer and load on both sewer and water. This is not a building that will have public bathrooms. These bathrooms will be used by employees. I think the engineering letter referenced something over 8,000 gallons per day. What we have seen with these and what is the typical is roughly 100 gallons per day for employee use of the bathrooms is the load that it has. So very low producer as far as load on the public utilities. So it's going to be, it's something that we can certainly solve on the sanitary sewer side of this. And with that, if there's anything else you'd like me to cover.
Yeah, on the stormwater.
Yeah.
So, in your professional opinion, based on the design that you've provided and also the comments that you'll comply with from Mr. Cole, is there going to be a significant upgrade in stormwater management on the site that would also be a benefit to the surrounding area?
There already is with the current plan. So our current plan is designed to comply with all DEP regulations, and it's considered from a DEP perspective a minor development. Current site has sheet flow off the pavement into the woods. It's not something that we're looking to do here. In the replacement, we were collecting all of the water in underground pipes, but the vast majority of the site is the building, which is considered clean by the DEP and a much cleaner effluent from the site into the rear wooded area. So there was already just a natural upgrade of the stormwater management on site. We're in addition to that, to comply with the borough ordinance, we're going to be incorporating some features that retain and infiltrate some water on site. And that will further benefit the volumes and the speed at which the water enters into the wetlands at the rear of the site. So currently there's a significant benefit. It's only going to get better from here, certainly better than what the historic use and the current use is.
So there'll be a water, that the quantity will be reduced, the rate that the water leaves the site will be reduced, and there'll also be some quality aspects to it as well.
Yes. Naturally, the building provides a substantial upgrade in the quality of water leaving the site. You're not getting motor vehicle surface flowing into the woods. You're getting clean roof, leaf guards, the whole nine.
Okay, and then from a lighting perspective, again, I know there's no residential properties that directly abut where lighting is proposed, but no negative impacts on the surrounding properties.
No, there's no light spill, and certainly no light spill onto any adjacent neighbors that would notice it.
Okay, and this design, you talked about all the constraints that the property has, respects all of the DEP flood hazard rules, wetlands rules, and we're building within the confines of those parameters.
Yes, that's correct, and it's an important thing to note on as well as far as the DEP regulations. We had some discussions with your engineer today on this. So what's with the requirement, in addition to the flood storage volume, the applicant will also have to provide some sort of flood proofing for those units at the ground as well as the office. This goes for any commercial development in the flood hazard area in New Jersey. I just did a Wawa down in Wildwood. They're incorporating floodgates where they're essentially like build-a-blocks that you put in front of the door in a flood event. It keeps the water out from those areas. So that's what we plan to incorporate as part of our DEP application, are essentially flood barriers for those 8 roll-up doors as well as the entrance to the office and the lobby area. And then everything from a perspective of the walls of that physical office space will be designed in accordance with DEP regulations. And then you'll also see as we move through, the screening on the outside has to have substantial openings to, if there were an emergency flood event, allow that water to flow in and out freely. There may be some negotiation there with maybe incorporating some additional flood vents along the bottom of the walls, but the design that we have today I've seen be endorsed by the DEP, and you'll see kind of the openings as you go that are aesthetic but also functional from a DEP standpoint.
All right, and there were some comments about landscaping and screening in Mr. Cole's letter. We're providing what you have there, which is a significant landscaping upgrade, but you'll comply with his comments set forth in his letter?
Yes, that's correct. I discussed his comments with our landscape architect. He had no issues with those comments.
Okay. Going back to the lighting, Mr. Cole also had a recommendation regarding the temperature. We'll agree.
Yes, any temperature that the board prefers, we can provide.
Okay. All right. I think that's all I have. I know I talked about the operations at the beginning very briefly, but it's your understanding it would be open from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. for customers?
Yes, that's correct.
The retail component would be from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m.?
Yes.
About 1 to 2 employees per shift?
Yes, in 4 total, plus or minus, yes.
Yeah, and that the garbage pickup would be once to twice per week, correct?
Yeah, and I believe that there was a restriction in that letter. The applicant's agreeable to that as well, as far as the hours of operation.
Okay.
Mr. Tuval?
Yes.
Would your applicant be amenable to stipulating to compliance with Mr. Cole's report as a condition of approval if the board were so inclined?
Yes, as it relates to Mr. Much's testimony, yes, and then I'll have each witness kind of speak to
All
their discipline. But as
I'd
to your
appreciate it.
testimony?
Yes, absolutely.
That's great, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, that concludes, Mr. Chairman, my directive, Mr. Much.
Anyone from the board have any questions of the testimony just given by Mr. Much?
As always, I do.
Of course.
What's the elevation? If I understand that right, the darker, I'm gonna call it tan color, is your office structure.
Yes.
The lighter tan is the building out that goes above? Okay.
Yes, that's correct.
So it's a drive-under building.
Yes.
What's the height and the elevation inside the building? What size vehicle could drive in there, turn around, move around, and all that?
I would like to leave that to the architect. I don't have the exact figure in front of me, but our architect will go through that.
Okay, next question. You're talking about lighting. We've got a street back there, Washington Place. Are you familiar with that? It's the residential street behind the building?
Through the woods, correct?
Yep, your lighting, is that gonna affect them?
No, our lighting falls to zero nearly at the edge of where our physical building
Yeah,
is because
wha-
those lights are underneath.
Why don't you just show it on the plan, if you can move the screen so you could show everybody?
Yeah, do you,
Yeah,
so,
use your cursor, yeah.
yeah, so our lighting, because it's under the building, we don't have any area lights or wall lights pointing towards the rear.
Right.
So it's all downlighted, it's screened. Our lighting plan that you'll see in our set of civil plans doesn't even factor in the screen. That building's essentially floating in our design to be extremely conservative. And the light spill only comes a few feet outside of the footprint of the building. Behind that, you have a healthy and mature forest before you ever get back to the residences. So honestly, any commercial development that you did here that wasn't under the building, you would get that kind of sky glow from the area lights. You will not have that with this development.
Okay. Probably an architect's question, but as the building goes up 70 or 75 feet, are there windows and lighting coming out of there?
Yeah, you'll see all of that in his elevations, and he'll go through it absolutely.
Okay. Now, the water. I know they do all kinds of studies, but I live in this town. You get water there. I mean, it's inevitable you're going to get water in that building. And you think your flood control methods are going to make your building safe? It won't
Yes. So the flood control that we're providing as part of this will be fully compliant with all DEP regulations. It's a requirement of this approval that the DEP has to endorse the controls that we're doing. And then obviously we understand that this site, and our applicant understands that this site's in a flood zone. So anything that goes on at that ground floor, the applicant is going in eyes wide open of the risk of flood events and what could occur there.
Okay, now, probably not an appropriate question, but there'll be no basement?
No, there will be no basement.
Are you going to be digging? You're going to do a foundation and footings?
Yes, certainly.
Are you aware that there's piles in there?
I'm not directly aware of piles, but there'll be a full geotechnical investigation as well as an on-site geotechnical consultant as we build the building.
Okay, you're going to find them.
Okay, good to know.
I'm good.
Michael, will they be in compliance with the stormwater management ordinance that we've been working on?
Well, but based on the borough's ordinance, the DEP allows municipalities to tighten the restrictions down to what's defined as a major development. Based on the borough's ordinance, it's defined as a major development, so the applicant has to address essentially the DEP regulations. Even though the model ordinance doesn't, from DEP, it would not be considered a major development. But the borough, instead of being 1 acre of disturbance, restricted it to a ½ acre of disturbance. Instead of being a ½ acre of motor vehicle, said 5,000 square feet. So under the borough's ordinance, it's a major development. So the applicant's going to have to address basically on this application, I see it's more retention The water quality is for motor surfaces, and I don't know if he meets the threshold here. Technically, there's a motor surface, but it's covered, so we'll have to look at that from a water quality. But the bottom line is, he's gonna have to meet the DEP regs that's applicable to Somerville for the ordinance.
Art, I'm not sure if I ask, who I ask right now because of that answer, whether it's Mike or Mr. Much. The building right now, or that spot right now, as far as I can tell, is 100% covered. You know, there's been a parking lot there since late 50s.
Yeah.
Are we essentially changing that, or is it just gonna be building same as far as coverage goes?
What the applicant is doing is using the limit of existing asphalt and the old pad for the diner is the limit, saying they're not gonna, I looked at the grading, and they're matching grading, so they're not putting volume, they're not putting fill in the site. So therefore, they're not impacting the volume calculations to comply with DEP. I had a question on the 5,000 square foot of the ground floor. It's being moved from where the diner was. And what Paul is saying is he can move it and get an individual permit from DEP regarding that. So the question is, the applicant has to comply with the DEP rules that will address the floodproofing. Obviously, we generally put everything in the air, because I'm not a fan of floodproofing, but I know Paul is, so. And again, that's between the applicant and the DEP, should the board approve it.
Yeah, I honestly don't care if their shoes get wet. Are we making more water runoff, or are we not? That's really what I'm asking.
The answer,
Yeah, so I can answer that. So there's two ways to answer that question. From a stormwater management standpoint, we are not going to be making more water. We're essentially, when we meet with your engineer and discuss the stormwater, we're gonna retain water on site, reduce the overall stormwater load. In addition to that, from an emergency flood hazard standpoint, we are not permitted to increase the flood volume that leaves the site. So we have to maintain the storage on the site, which is in part why we can't raise the building. If you raise the site, you push flood waters onto other properties. We are not permitted to do that.
So, Mike, your opinion, are we aggravating the situation, or is it staying the same?
it's staying the same.
Okay.
The water quality, they're not increasing, back to Mr. O'Neill's question, they're not increasing the impervious coverage on the site.
Okay.
So the argument I'm saying is that if you're not increasing the impervious coverage, I don't think you have to comply with water quality.
Yeah, so it is a reduction of overall impervious coverage.
Right, so he's reducing it, and it's under the building, so that it's not, what's running off the site, for the most part, almost all of it, is not subject to water quality, in my opinion.
It's roof water.
It's roof water.
Yeah, okay.
So the answer to the question on that. He needs to get, the applicant needs to get DEP permits. There's questions whether wetland delineation is still valid, buffers, and that's all gonna be addressed, because the stormwater outfall structures in the buffer, which is gonna require DEP approvals. And should the board grant approval, we have to look at this, because the DEP may be looking at the stormwater management with the outfall structure. DEP sometimes does the stormwater management along with the outfall structure. So the question is, and should the board approve this, is if the DEP is gonna be removing the stormwater, then maybe the borough should not be doing it, should be allowing the DEP, but the ordinance is what kicks it to the borough, so it's a little bit of a.
Yeah.
The DEP might take the position, as far as we're concerned, it's not a major development, therefore allowed the borough engineer or the planning board engineer to look at it. I'm just spitballing here on how the outfall structure is. And when the outfall structure gets approved, they're gonna de facto approve the wetland line and the buffer, and that's gonna be wrapped into the flood hazard permit. That's a different agency, DEP, but he needs to get an individual permit for the flood hazarding.
But bottom line, I'm concerned not about the western part of Washington Place, but the eastern part's been getting wetter and wetter over the years. You know, we're not making that worse.
No, we're not making it
That's
worse.
really what I'm asking.
That's correct.
Okay.
Anybody else from the board have any questions of the testimony?
Yeah, just curious, where are you gonna store them? Where's the stormwater being stored? Underneath the structure or?
Currently, we just have conveyance, but to meet the borough ordinance, we'll do some underground structures, and that will occur in likely that driveway on the left-hand side, but if some of it has to be under the physical frame of the building, that's a potential as well.
Anyone else?
Yeah, so go back to the 5,000 square feet on the first floor. And our most recent flood that devastated the town, how much water was on that property, height-wise?
I don't know what that flood elevation was. So the current flood, so the site is graded, and I can pull out my grading plan real quick so I can be really clear about this. So the right-hand portion of the site is lower than the left-hand portion. So in the old flood rules, the flood hazard area just touched this parking area.
You're on A1, right?
Yeah, this is Exhibit A1. And the old flood hazard area just touched this side of the site because it's below. The flood elevation for the site is verified at elevation 51.5. And basically that bisects the existing developed footprint in half. So everything to the right of my cursor is below that 51.5. Everything to the left is above. Now, the new DEP rules increase those flood elevations by 2 feet. So when we do flood volume calculations, or if this was a multifamily building, we would have to lift those residences above that. Now the entire site is in the flood. So depending on what kind of storm we had, like I'm thinking back to Ida, I'm not sure how that hit here, but in a lot of places in the state, Ida hit where the new rules are set. But in your traditional flood hazard area, it would only impact a small portion of the site.
So during Ida, your flood was up to your property line to the north.
Yeah, so that's pretty consistent. Is that the DEP increased the flood design elevations to basically match what Ida did to the state. So now all of our calculations and our considerations factor in that larger flood. So we understand that if we get another Ida, this site is going to flood, and the applicant is eyes wide open on the impacts of that and their responsibility to protect their tenants with the flood prevention measures that we'll provide as part of the DEP application.
So that first floor, that 5,000 square foot area, that'll be flood-proof?
Yes, so that'll be dry flood proofed. The applicant has the option to wet flood proof it. We'll have those discussions. It's my intention for dry because there's only 10, let's call it, entry points into the building. So you would put these flood barriers that you can essentially, they're like Lincoln logs, you stack up in a flood emergency that would prevent the water from entering those roll-up doors as well as the 2 entrances to the lobby in a flood emergency. And typically, this is not your typical rainstorm. A flood emergency you know is coming and you can prepare for it.
And is there like a commercial contractor that comes in that does that?
Yes, that's correct.
Morgan is quite exhaustive. There's also in the building code requirements that, and the certification that has to be done by either the engineer or the architect that the work was done to make it flood-proof. And then you have the issue of the maintenance of these structures and whether they actually work. But as I had a discussion with Paul, that's not really an engineering point of view. That's a maintenance issue.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so Paul, just to be clear, we're going to have to comply with the DEP flood rules.
Yes.
The zone, from a zoning perspective, allows 70% lot coverage. We're well under that at 31.2%.
Yep, that's correct.
And we're actually reducing the impervious coverage on site over what exists today.
Yes.
And all the other stormwater measures, that you've described will alleviate runoff to the surrounding areas.
Yes, it's an improvement overall from quality and quantity. It's an improvement.
Okay.
Good, thank you.
Anyone else from?
Yeah, me again. The mechanicals of the elevators, where's that equipment gonna be?
You'll see that on the footprint as the architect gets in, but it's located. I can point
I'm
to
looking
it.
at it, I just
Go
can't-
back to A2.
Yeah, we're back at A2, and it's located kind of centrally to the building is where everything will be.
It's at grade level though.
Yeah, the first elevator will be at grade level. That's correct.
The mechanical's gonna be up or?
They'll have to comply with all the code. I'm not 100% sure what that is from an architectural standpoint, but they'll have to comply with DEP regulations.
Rich, the HVACs are shown on the roof with
Yeah.
screening.
Yeah,
But you're saying the mechanicals, whether it's a pit,
yeah,
and whether it's a
yeah, how you gonna
pitless,
run it? I mean,
you're saying traction control, what kind of elevators they are,
yeah,
and what's
depends
going
what they're
on.
gonna have. But then the electrical rooms, where are they gonna be?
Everything will have to, the mechanical room is in the, what we'll call the northeast corner of the building. Again, my architect, I'm a
Yeah,
civil engineer,
I
but my
know.
architect will show you, but
I'll get a
all of
better
those
answer out of you.
mechanicals will also be required to comply with DEP regulations pursuant to the flood.
Well, we'll probably talk to the architect about putting that upstairs.
Yeah, Rich, it came up that, I don't know if New Jersey American's requiring a hot box. It might be close enough, there's no hot box, but there is. That would have to be shown, but the pad mounted transformer is shown in the flood hazard zone, because the whole site is in the flood hazard zone. So I don't know if PSE&G is gonna have to raise that.
That's right.
Obviously, you don't put a transformer, in my opinion, below the flood hazard baseline. But those things are not really in the applicant's control. PSE&G is gonna
Well,
have
the
to.
interior electrical room is.
Absolutely.
I just don't wanna have the guys having to respond to a building with all kinds of things going wrong. Yeah, we'll talk about it later.
Anyone else on the board have any questions on Mr. Muth?
Oh, I have a couple for you. I don't know if this is the architect, but the stair towers are in the four corners, the three corners, I'm sorry for this triangle. Some of the stair towers aren't shown in the site plan to grade.
Yeah,
Is
we'll
that
have
an
to,
o-
we'll
Is
have
that
to
an
provide.
oversight, the stair towers all?
Yeah,
that-
that's
okay.
just something we have to incorporate, yeah.
It's within the footprint of the triangle, you're gonna have the stair towers going
That's
out.
correct.
And the dumpster enclosure, this came up in a similar application. If you have 1 or 2 employees, do you need a dumpster? That's probably not your question, it's probably an architectural question. And then the question more might be in your line is, does the dumpster enclosure could it be under the building? Do you need it outside the building? The reason I bring that up is you're gonna have to anchor that. And if it's in the building, you could make an argument to DEP, it's not going anywhere because of the masonry block.
Yeah, so I would say that, yes, it could be under the building. If that's the preference, we can locate it. We have some maneuverability under there to allow that to happen. Just to make sure it'll work, if the truck is gonna go overhead with it. That was really the consideration. If it does, it's probably too high for the ceiling, but we can work all of that out. But just on some more operational testimony, the trash enclosure is not used by the customers. You're not unloading and loading boxes and throwing everything in that dumpster. It is just for office use in general. So it's rarely used in general. And
Based on the fire marshal's correspondence, I don't think fire trucks or OEM trucks are planned to be going through the building. There was some comments I had on circulation, showing the turning movements through the building. Right now, if the trucks and box trucks, whoever delivers, has to go through the building to exit onto the one-way circulation that goes out to 206. And the concern I have is whether the fire trucks will be using that and can make the turns, but I don't think the fire marshal has indicated that OEM vehicles are to be going through the building if there's emergency.
yeah, certainly not. And into the design, we're going to provide the remote fire department connection that they're looking for. And there's also a fire hydrant directly in front of our building on Route 206. So, that is kind of an ideal scenario for the firefighter. I don't have any reason why they would go into the building if it was on fire.
So leave the traffic comments to the traffic engineer.
Certainly.
Regarding the treatment works, what the rules are, if it's over 8,000 gallons, you need treatment works approval. The challenge with this is DEP has tables that we can calculate, engineers, to determine whether it meets the threshold. There's no tables for a warehouse, so we just need some documentation. I
Sure.
don't disagree with the testimony saying we're not anywhere close to 8,000 gallons based on 2 employees, but the square footage, if you use a general office building, it's 0.1 gallons. You're over 8,000, but obviously this isn't an office building. So should the board grant approval, would you have to get some documentation on how that, whatever it's 200 gallons, 500 gallons, whatever it is, so that they won't.
That's fine.
That a treatment works approval would not be required.
Okay.
Anybody else have any questions? Anyone from the audience have any questions of the testimony just given? Please come up to the mic and identify yourself.
So I'll start. I'm Mike Prothero, 85 Washington Place, Prothero. I'm not sure who's typing. Got it? Yeah, I was think of questions here.
Yeah, I'm
One,
fine.
there is a neighborhood behind there, just for your information. I heard a few comments of no residential, and I think the board clarified that there is. George Washington knew it well. One question I had was about security. You had mentioned your hours of operation.
Could you
but-
just speak up a little bit into the microphone?
Sure, maybe I'm not close enough. to it.
Thank you.
You said there'd be security lighting, and you have certain hours that it's open. When it's not open, is there any kind of fencing, security to prevent people from going around behind? Because it seems like an ideal place for people to gather. The neighborhood is directly behind that building. I know this is kind of snipped off to not see how close it is, and a lot of those trees are actually in neighbors' yards. It is a very short distance. And we would have a direct view of where all those roll-up doors are and the trucks or cars or whatever comes in there to load and unload. So I'm concerned kind of not only during the day, but also during off hours. How do you prevent people coming and going into those areas? Is there that part of the plan?
Yeah, so there'll be security lighting that's provided on the building. It won't be fully lit overnight. So, you know, it's an enforcement issue if people are gathering on the site. It's certainly something that the applicant could consider if it ever became an issue. You know, some sort of gate system that would prevent people from entering and exiting the site after hours. It's not currently formulated just because of the uniqueness. Don't want to block cars coming into the site, but if issues arose, we could certainly address it. And then as far as the comment and the question about being able to see vehicles, you'll see through the architectural testimony that the underneath of the building is well screened, so the visual impact of the ground floor operations is extremely minimal, but I'll let my architect get into that.
And the setback, the rear yard setback is more substantial than what's required, correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
I see a lot of trees out on the 206 side. What is the barrier between this building and the neighborhood behind? Mainly for noise. Your neighbor to the north has a very solid double wall that creates a viewing and does some noise reduction.
Yeah,
But
certainly.
you've got a lot of action going on the first floor, and we wanted to see what the plan is there.
Yeah, this site and this development has a lot of just innate benefits for that. So first and foremost, we can't take down the existing trees as part of this. So that green forested area, that's a permanent buffer that can never leave. So in addition to the screening of the architecture, there's also just natural screening between the building and the wooded area and the residences that are to the rear. In addition to that, the building itself is actually going to act as a sound wall in this scenario, where it's actually going to block noise from Route 206. So that, in conjunction with the fact that a self-storage use is one of the lowest, and you'll hear this from our traffic engineer, I don't want to step on his toes, but low traffic generation, you know, it's what I like to call a lazy use, certainly has a far less of an impact than any of the permitted commercial uses that you could look to do, and that's been contemplated at this site. So I think this development specifically is as minimal an impact from a noise and an activity standpoint as you could formulate here.
Except when people are loading and unloading, right, from there. Box
Yeah.
trucks backing up.
Well, you could have
I think that's what we would be.
You could
Yeah.
have a retail facility that would also have loading and unloading.
Yeah,
A
and
lot of the permitted
Which is-
uses all have loading and unloading features. And I think that's why Paul was saying the fact that it's located a far distance from the rear yard, it's screened underneath the building,
Yep.
that it's just the parameters of the site lend itself well to mitigate against the issues that you're bringing up.
Yeah, and our traffic engineer will certainly get into it, but you know, we're looking at an occasional box truck for loading operations here, the occasional trash truck. As compared to any other use, you'd have daily tractor trailers and things of that nature. So the loading operations here, and you'll hear from our architect on how the breakdown is, it's minimal for a use on any site, but specifically this one.
What about, I think we haven't talked about what's allowed to be stored in that bottom level. We got a lot into the floods, which, actually, one of my questions was, is 79-206, is that the correct address? I did bring a picture. This, I think some of you are familiar. This is from one of the many hurricanes that occurred. But this gives you some idea of the property you're developing.
Are you submitting that as an exhibit?
I'd be happy to. It's a photograph of the site, probably a day after. I'm not sure if this was Ida. I believe this was Ida. But I've lived there for a couple decades, so I've seen Floyd, Irene, Sandy, Ida. So I've got a couple pictures like this. Here's what Route 206 looks like.
Well, does
So this would give you some idea, and I can submit that, whoever.
The only hard part about those types of exhibits are, okay, where did you get them from?
I took
take
these
the
photos.
photograph?
Okay, so you took them personally?
I took them personally.
Okay. What were the dates that they were taken? We just have to authenticate things. So when did you take them?
I can probably look up from the file.
Okay. So then, Cliff, if he's going to authenticate it, that should probably be through testimony, right? Not necessarily, because he's just questioning the witness now.
Right.
So it should probably be through like being sworn in and, you know, that you're telling.
It's really just to give you information on what it looks like after a flood.
I
That's all.
We'll do that later.
That's all.
Yeah,
can
no, I
do
know
that
you
in
were
the
well
comment
intended
section.
by the pictures.
Right now,
I
we'll
get
just
it.
go with the
Yep.
questions
I guess
of the testimony.
my related question to that was what's allowed to be stored in those first floor level? Because when you do get 2 or 3 feet of water, I know you want to prevent it coming in there, but these storms are relentless. It's going to come in there. And are there going to be contaminated things?
Is that a question or is that testimony?
I guess my question is what could be stored in there? Because whatever gets stored in there on a bad flood could end up being washed away in the water, end up in people's basements, in businesses, in the wetlands.
Yeah, and I don't have the full scope of the leases that are signed with these self-storage units, but, you know, in lending to your board professionals letters, there's no hazardous materials, there's no flammable materials. This is all anticipated to be household materials. Maybe a contractor or some business owner uses it for some storage as well. Again, we're going to flood-proof the building. I understand there's concerns that it could fail. You know, it has to comply with DEP, and anything that would be coming in and out of that building would be, you know, things that are conjunctive to this use.
I'd like,
Be best to wait for the architect on the uses. I had
That's
covered
fine.
it, and the fire marshal covered it about EV car storage and so forth. But at least in my mind, I thought that was a more architectural comment than a
Okay.
site. I could be
Yeah, I'm
wrong.
not sure who
I-
covers which portion of their testimony, so.
I'd just like to make a couple comments. First of all, if you, at some point in this proceeding, and I wouldn't submit them now, you need to do what you need to do to authenticate that. And that would be providing full information as to when you took it, and, you know, you took it and when you did. You know, that's essentially testimony on your part. Secondly, just with respect to any members of the interested public, this is the questions are with respect to the testimony. Independent statements as to your approval or non-approval of the application are not appropriate at this time. There will be a time later in the hearing, after the applicant has completed its case in chief, that you will have the opportunity to make such statements. If you're going to make such statements, so during the question section, I'm going to interpose an objection every time. You know, the chairman will rule on it, but I mean, I would appreciate it if you didn't do that, because it's essentially out of order.
That's fair.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I guess the only one last question was, I think on that drawing, there was a dotted line that goes right through the parking lot. What is that dotted line?
Yeah, so that dotted line is the existing transition area associated with the wetlands. So that's to identify exactly where that's not the wetlands, that's the 50-foot transition area that's required to buffer from there. And just to get ahead of the question, the limits of disturbance are permittable with the DEP. We're redeveloping some areas of pavement, we're buffer averaging in others to ensure we're fully compliant with the DEP from a wetland perspective, in addition to the extensive discussion on flood.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Anyone else from the audience have any questions on the testimony just given?
everybody. My name is Myrna Samsky. I'm a resident at 105 Washington Place and have resided there for many, many years. So we've seen the floods and all that good stuff. Now, you said we can ask questions at this point.
Questions of the testimony just given.
Questions
Yeah,
about the testimony.
right, exactly.
Could you maybe move the mic a little down a little bit because, okay,
Okay.
that's great.
Okay, thank you. I do have a question, and it is in regard to the size of this building, this 5-story building. My question would be, how did anyone arrive at the size of the building, that it should be 5 stories high? Because it will be a visual, a negative from all of our houses there on Washington Place to see this giant thing. So I'd like to know how they arrived at 5 stories.
Well, the developer obviously instructs its project team to build a building at the height that it wants. But the zone itself permits up to 15 stories at 160 feet.
Yeah, I heard you say that, yeah.
So when the applicant is looking at the site with the project team, you look at the parameters. That's why, if you heard me at the beginning, I kind of talked about the parameters and how, based on what the code permits, we actually don't have a really buildable lot. But from a height perspective, which I think was your question,
Yes.
obviously the developer has to look at a project that works for them. So that obviously that's clear. But the second one was, we looked at the height permitted in the zone, and it allows 15 stories, 160 feet or something along those lines. I think it's in Michael's report, but well more than what we're proposing.
Okay. When we have, there's the portion where you can make comments on
Sure,
it, right?
sure.
So
There will be a
I'd like to just show this slide, where you can see our particular houses on Washington Place. I think that would be helpful to you.
Okay,
So we'll do it for that.
that's fine.
And ma'am, if you're going to,
Could you,
Ms. Samsky, if you're going to present that, you're going to have to do,
could you identify what it is?
No, she said she would do it later, as you instructed,
All right,
as you
later.
instructed earlier, Cliff.
All right, you're gonna defer, that's fine, thank you. Appreciate you clarifying that.
anyone else? Hello.
Hi, Joe Pomar. I'm 77 Washington Place. And yeah, I just wanted to, I understand that we're going to be permitted to question
Yes.
the witness here today. Wanted to just raise a point for Chairman Adair, just so you know. We received notice of this hearing a week ago, Monday. So we, the public, are at a little bit of a disadvantage. You guys have had, the engineers had, presumably many days to go over this stuff. So we do request a little bit of patience, because as Mike's done a nice review of the plans, looked at it, we've talked amongst ourselves. It's difficult for us to then take our commentary, turn those into questions. We're doing the best we can with that. So understand, we're at a little disadvantage. Paul's done a great job with his drawings and his analysis and stuff like that, but you guys have had weeks to probably look at it and review. We've had a few days. I strolled over to the office, took a look at the site plan. But basically, I guess one question I would have is, do you feel it's fair to say you could build 15 stories on this site? Particularly since you're admitted, your drawing there shows a small triangle at the center of the site, and you yourself describe it as an unbuildable site. So is it really fair to say that you could build a 15-story structure on that little triangular footprint, which is, as you mentioned, where you happen to be backed into based on the regulations? I guess it would be the DEP regulations. So that would be really my first question.
Well, they're not asking to build a 15-story
No,
building.
no, but
it would be allowed in that zone if they met all the criteria for having the right, the square footage
Right.
and the configuration.
Yeah,
Right.
We made 2 points, Mr. Palmieri. One was the restrictive nature of the site, and
Yeah.
which we talked about,
Yeah.
which you've caught on to, obviously.
Yeah.
And then also just the fact of what the zone permits
Right.
in that area.
Right.
So those were the 2 points that we were making as it relates to the project. That's all.
Right, right. And my point was simply really to put on the record that it's sort of an illusion to say you could build 15 stories there.
We could argue, if,
Yeah.
I understand,
Yeah.
and the prior member of the public also raised the height issue. The bottom line is we don't need a variance for the height.
Okay.
I mean, there's other considerations, obviously, that the board has to consider. There's no doubt about that. But from a height perspective, we're compliant.
Right. Okay, so how did you determine that, for instance, you were not going to obscure visually the new Dunkin' Donuts drive-through that's there with a 5-story structure right there? Currently, we have, 18-wheelers that park on the shoulder there out in front of that. And there is, I think Paul mentioned that the egress from the new Dunkin' Donuts drive-through comes out at the south end of that site. So if you're driving up 206, if you build a 5-story building right there, wouldn't you fly right past Dunkin' Donuts before you realized there was an opportunity to drive into that? So how did you kind of work that out? You mentioned that you didn't feel it visually obstructed.
Yeah, and again, when we're developing a lot with the challenges that you've referenced, we have to find the best engineering alternative to develop the lot. When we looked at the setback and the visual impacts to the development of the north, I look at it from a civil engineering and a safety perspective. From that perspective, the ingress driveway that's afforded that lot is several hundred feet to the north, as far from our property as it could be. So from a civil engineering perspective, people traveling in the Route 206 corridor will have sufficient time, and our traffic engineer can testify this in more detail, sufficient time to identify the development, make an approach to the driveway and enter the site. It's actually ideally located for that driveway to allow, regardless of the development, just in general along the Route 206 corridor, it's the safest point for egress on that shopping center lot. So that's how we looked at it. We had to find an engineering alternative here, and our building certainly does not obstruct from a safety and site distance standpoint the ability to enter that site because of the location of the driveway, but also just visually there's several hundred feet of driving that occurs past our building before you have to make a movement into that site.
Is it several hundred feet?
I don't have the exact figure in mind. I just know there's a full shopping center.
Right.
You have to drive across the entire frontage of the shopping center before you get to the ingress driveway.
Right. Have you spoken to the adjoining retail neighbor there about what you're proposing here?
Yes.
And gotten feedback?
Specifically, I spoke with the adjacent developer about the connection to sanitary. As far as the regards to the impacts and the developments, the two developments and how their synergy, we did not discuss.
Right. Okay. And the the idea, I think Mike raised it. So people will be entering your property, driving under there, and then exiting potentially out the north end of the site onto 206, right? Which is where the egress for the Dunkin' Donuts will be one notch over, basically there. But we have, I think one of the your colleague here mentioned, that in the retail use, there are truck deliveries, there are things doing so, ergo, there was a non-issue vis-a-vis with truck traffic on your property. In fact, with the same board here, we had long discussions about how the deliveries to the Dunkin' site would not impinge on the neighborhood behind it. And so, I would just sort of raise the point that we've already been through this with your neighboring property owner. The idea, and there is the potential that people could be driving in there many, many times with box trucks to access your facility there.
And you'll certainly be hearing extensive testimony from our traffic engineer on the trips generated by a self-storage use, and I'll just state on the record, it's substantially less than what a Dunkin' Donuts produces, and you'll hear specific testimony on that shortly. Okay,
so are you aware, Paul, that you said there's not a residential neighborhood, but I'm looking at your site plan here, and it's within a 200 feet radius of your self-storage facility.
Yeah, I probably overspoke. When I look at this from a civil engineering perspective, having a robust wooded buffer that's permanent, that I'm not touching, when I look at that, it's like an ideal scenario for me when I'm designing, because I know that especially with the lighting and the operations of the self-storage being under the building and infrequent, that the impact to the residential from the site development on its own is very minimal, and then also buffered with a mature forest. That's an ideal scenario when I'm looking at redeveloping an existing commercial site.
But the, so 200 feet basically, within a 200-foot radius, and the historic Wallace House is within 500 feet of this site. So I think, I mean, I'll just make the statement that, in fact, there is you know, it's going to be in proximity to a neighborhood in the Somerville development philosophy.
That's commentary.
Okay.
We're still dealing with questions.
Okay, so the other question I would have is, it's been referred to as a hardship development here. The lot has been referred to as being unbuildable. So Paul, and also, I apologize,
Jason.
Jason. So my question to you is, you know, isn't this really a form of a bailout by the town of Somerville for a commercial property? And this bailout, in the sense, as you said, it's an unbuildable lot. So we need to, you know, get a bunch of variances to build this structure. So my question to you is, we're building at a great height here within 200 feet of existing residential homes. Is that something, you know?
So I would say that's more of a planning question, but I would also just tell you that highway commercial development was contemplated in this corridor by the zone. So I don't know if it's just you don't want there to be development here, that might be your preference, and also bailout, no, I would say this is exactly why the municipal land use law was created. This is exactly why a board of adjustment was created. We come to a board, we say that there are constraints, there are potentially unique aspects of the property, our use is somewhat, you know, suitable for the site. We make our arguments, and that's why you have a board like this.
Right.
So I would not say it's a bailout at all. I would say that this is the process.
But it
And
requires changes to build it.
Of course, that's why you
Yeah.
have a board of adjustment, and it's our job, and it's going to be up to the board to do their job, to weigh the
Right.
facts and the evidence that we present in argument that we're proposing a project that's suitable for this location. But I wouldn't call it a bailout. I would call it the fact
Definitely
that
not a
that we're following. This scenario here is exactly why the MLUO was created.
Okay, yes, and you know, just, I appreciate that we have the opportunity to have this dialogue.
Yeah, and, no, of course,
Yeah.
and it's very respectful and it's productive. And what I would say is, if there are comments that you said before, and I think your other neighbor did,
Yeah.
about the circulation and about buffering in the back, we're taking that under advisement, and we'll see if we can accommodate some of those comments that you're making.
Right, thanks, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Are you aware that in the past, there's been dumping off the backside of this property into the stream there?
Our client, just so you're aware, is not the owner, we're the contract purchaser.
gotcha.
So, you know, I can ask my client if he can speak to the owner about that.
Right, so how will you prevent, you know, say I go, you know, I'm behind on my rent with my storage unit.
So
How do you prevent me from tossing stuff off the back?
So Paul, you know, it's hard to contemplate every scenario that you're going to ask, but Paul did indicate the rules of the self-storage facility don't allow you to use the dumpster. And then also when people at these types of facilities don't pay their rent, their unit gets locked. And then if you see online, they have there's actually a statutory legal method to dispose of people's property. I think they could sell it, and then once if they can't sell it, then they take it away. So
Right.
there's like a legal method of how you get rid of property in your scenario.
Okay, yeah, and the last
And
thing.
you can't throw it in the woods.
Right, right, but in the past, people have
No, I
done
don't.
so.
Well, again, to the point that
Yeah.
we're trying to make, and I know this is just dialogue back and forth. This is
Constructive
composed to a
questions.
diner. It's a lot less activity.
Right, but the diner was actually a smaller footprint, right, and so that's, anyway, last question for Paul, I
Go ahead.
guess. How did you arrive at putting that egress driveway with the dumpster at the north end of the site, closer to the houses, as opposed to at the south end, kind of overlooking that jug handle?
It was really just a function of how the site laid out and how we could get a trash truck. I think we heard a positive feedback from from the board engineer that, you know, it could be moved under the building to further limit the impact. Again, it's not used by customers, so it's once, maybe twice a week it's serviced, if that much. And maybe potentially if we work with your engineer and we move it under the building, that, you know, further mitigates any kind of impact from the trash.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have to confirm it's possible, but.
That's where I was going.
Yeah.
When the architect gives the comments, there's no door shown on the in or out. Now, if it's gated with doors and the dumpster enclosure's inside, then all loading, unloading is in enclosed space.
Right.
So I can't imagine any noise generated from the facility if everything's inside. I didn't ask the Paul about the entrances and exits because that's really an architectural building elevation question. The building elevations just don't show when you're leaving
Right.
to the one way. Are you just an open space or is it some kind of roll-up door? I don't, you know, we'll get to the architect on this. But
Okay.
that was where I was going with the question of how the noise generation. Obviously, if everything's inside, I
Right.
can't imagine
Yeah.
a better use than that.
Yeah,
from a
because
noise.
we are 200 feet from the
Right.
Duncan, and trust me, I can hear it when they boom that dumpster. You know, it's a resounding noise. But anyway, I do appreciate it. I want to emphasize that for us, the public, this is really our first view of all the work that you guys have put in here. And it's difficult just sitting here to come up with a full set of questions.
Okay, no, I understand.
Thank you.
Okay.
Anyone else from the audience?
Good evening. My name is Grigori Verb. I am the neighbor to the north. I have two.
Could you give your address, please?
The neighbor to the north being 89 Route 206.
Thank you.
I have a minor concern over the sewer easement. The language for this is somewhat murky after the line was capped and grouted 8 years ago. That would need to be sorted out as to avoid disruption to my site. I would prefer they abandon the manhole in the dumpster pad existing and redo the lateral, or re-tap into the lateral right behind the dumpster pad. That way we don't have to impact my brand-new site by the time they get moving here. My second concern is the 28-foot...
Greg, what kind of question is that?
Sorry?
Questions?
Is there any alternative to utilizing that sewerage easement?
Yeah, I think we have to look at, I don't think it's something for the board to decipher the easement, but I do agree with you that we have to figure out, are we gonna use that easement or are we gonna have an alternative? I don't dispute that that's an issue.
Right.
We're gonna have to
Not so much a question, but commentary upon their statements.
We'll have a time for commentary.
Fair enough. Second is I question the testimony on visual impacts regarding seeing the retail center to the north and the 7 small businesses there. When someone is driving down 206, forcing their head to a hard right after a imposing structure 28 feet off the curb is not ideal. I'm curious to understand why that 28-foot frontage variance is the magic number for you.
Yeah, with regards to the setback, and I sort of spoke to it, is that, you know, when we have a site that's constrained like this one, we have to find the best engineering alternative. We look to establish a green corridor, a green buffer along the road, and then also provide a building that was, you know, suitable and large enough to support the development overall. So the 28-foot number is not a magic number, but it's something that we worked extensively with our applicant to size and facilitate this very unique building to provide for the development.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Paul, just not to beat a point, but on the lighting, there was very little lighting on the ingress, but because I know your foot candles did not account for the existing lighting on the road. So when you say we'll comply, you'll get foot candles and show that there's adequate lighting on the entrances and exits on the 206?
Yeah, and we can even walk it at night and get the true light levels that are out
Right,
there.
good.
Yeah, absolutely.
You just did your foot candles were based on the lighting proposed, not the ambient, the existing lighting.
Exactly. Yeah,
Right,
we were
okay.
looking to show the impact of our development. We did not factor in, but we can certainly get those light levels along the frontage.
Yes.
Right. And one comment towards Greg, from a site engineering, the building's not in the sight line, so the site engineer is gonna say it's safe because you could see. You're bringing up an aesthetic comment that I think is best served by the architect on your concern.
No one else from the public has any questions?
Mr.
Expert?
Mr. Chairman, I was, your rule at the beginning of the meeting, 8:30 for the court reporter, did you want to do that now, or?
Oh, it's just not the court reporter. It's been an hour and a half. We have another hour and a half to go. Well, let's take 5,
Okay.
10.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, I was coming over and I was coming through Hillsborough, Belmead, Hillsborough, and the road, there was some issue. Oh, yeah, I know.
Everybody got jacked up.
Oh, okay, so I wasn't alone, I just wanted, the, railroad crossing was also blocked.
Hey, baby, come on.
Yeah.
Stuff happens.
See you?
Yeah, Paul's on the hot seat.
Hour and a half, baby. Oh, my God, I was coming up, you know, I think Paris got 5 minutes. The road was stopped, trees were down, and the, blockage of the railroad crossing, that, it was. And I'm thinking, I'm running around, the crazy man, finally I called Mike.
And then like, you could almost like.
Jason, you're almost saying.
Well, and I'm gonna drive off.
Put everything inside. Doors.
Oh, I went out, I got caught, and I basically, my suit top, my suit jacket was like drowned. So that's why I'm doing my Jim Jordan, invitation tonight, shirt and tie. Oh, God damn. Thanks.
I had a comment on windowless stories, but you know? The windowless story, you know, it's a windowless story, then you have to. You're already suppressing it.
Right? Yeah.
Right. Come on, baby. Have some fun tonight. Come on. Look, I gotta document this every decade. I only see you once every 10 years. I see him a lot. He comes all the time. I get this cat out. It's true. Not like every 6 months, but I would say maybe Kavanaugh developments. Maybe the lodge. What do you guys do the lodge? Lodge collapse of the building on Davenport.
Bundle up.
What's up, man? Oh, he has another guy doing that. Yeah, it's all good, man. Yeah, he had the Chick-fil-A. He was like, he said he was shocked that he got it approved. I think they were gonna vote against it, and then he like delayed it, and then I don't know. Yeah. Must have been a while ago, right? Because it got denied. As long as you're not doing a data center. Oh. Oh, is he? I know. I know. He was at Vogel Chait, right? Did he?
I'm going to make a comment for that. It's the old county social service program now. Oh my God. Right.
I don't need the picture, I just, because I need to know when it happened.
Noise is inside. Everything's inside. No lighting, no noise.
Who's not here? Some designer thought the AMC Gremlin was good looking.
Yeah, that's true.
And the Edson.
What's wrong with the answer? I sat there folding up mailers for the extra. I got paid money to do that.
Too bad nobody paid money to buy the damn thing.
I got paid for it, but that was the end of that.
Let's reconvene. You leaving us?
Jason, is he a hostile witness?
Yeah.
There was a time I'd say, what are you smoking? Not in my house. Okay, you ready? Oh, what's over there?
Ready, Mr. Chairman?
As soon as our attorney gets here.
Okay.
Oh, fine, thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay.
Okay. All right, Mr. Chairman, our next witness is our traffic engineer, Matt Seckler from Stonefield Engineering and Design, so we should swear him in.
Good evening, sir. You solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, so help you God.
Yes, I do.
Please state your name and spell your last name for the record.
Certainly. My name is Matthew Seckler. That's Seckler. I'm with Stonefield Engineering Design. Address is 92 Park Avenue in Rutherford, New Jersey.
Very good. Mr. Tuvel, your witness, sir.
All right, Matt, just like Paul did, if you could give the board the benefit of your credentials, educational background, licenses held, and experience testifying as a traffic engineer in the state of New Jersey will qualify you as a planner at a later time.
Certainly. A Bachelor of Science in Civil Engineering from Union College in Schenectady, New York. I have a Master's in City Regional Planning from Rutgers University. I'm a licensed professional engineer and professional planner in the state. also recognized professional traffic operations engineer by the Institute of Transportation Engineers, been accepted for over 150 boards as a traffic engineer, including your planning board.
And our planning board?
Definitely your planning board. I don't know if I've been before this zoning board.
We stipulate to his qualifications.
Great, thank you, Mr. Chairman. All right, so Matt, why don't you get started by explaining the scope of your analysis of this project, and then we could talk about trip generation, parking, and on-site circulation.
Yes, as part of this project, we did prepare a traffic and parking assessment report. It was dated June 26, 2025. Essentially, that summarizes what we've done as part of our traffic and parking and circulation review. What we have done, we visited the site during peak hours. We've also looked at the application in terms of the amount of traffic trips that would be generated from the site. We looked at the parking demand. We've undergone our NJDOT permitting, which I'll explain where we are in that process, and also reviewed the site in terms of the circulation patterns, making sure, working with Paul's group at our company, that the circulation patterns for any of the vehicles that be utilizing this site could properly drive around the building and under the building as well. So overall, just kind of starting off, you guys have obviously seen this site. I think everyone here is well familiar with this site being located on the northbound side of Route 206. 206 in this area carries about 30 to 35,000 vehicles per day, obviously one direction than the other. Generally, it's a northbound AM morning peak flow. You have more cars that travel northbound in this area. In the morning, in the evening, it's generally the reverse. This site currently, obviously, previously operated as a diner, had 2 access points onto Route 206, and we're basically essentially looking to reutilize those general locations for this development. You saw Mr. Much's plans. The colorized rendering exhibit does show the in and out driveway. Again, that would be right in, right out. You have a divided highway there, so only right turns. And then at the northerlymost driveway, that'll be the right out only driveway that you saw the circulation patterns previously, which will allow for, again, another access point onto Route 206. In terms of the trip generation, what we utilize is the Institute of Transportation Engineers Trip Generation Manual. With engineers like myself, we've sat and counted the number of cars that go in and out of many different types of buildings, including self-storage buildings, which is what we are proposing here. And that data is sent to the ITE. The ITE compiles it and publishes it in the report, in a book, which we could utilize, and the DOT utilizes to determine projected traffic. The self-storage building is one of the 2 lowest generators of traffic on a per square foot basis in the entire book. So when you go through the whole book and you've got daycare, fast food, office building, colleges, you go through that whole book, the one that has the least amount of traffic one of the 2 lowest amount of traffic per square foot is a self-storage building. As Paul said, I don't remember if he said it was sleepy or quiet, but that is basically the type of traffic that you would see going in and out of this type of site. So when we look to the book for the type of traffic or volume that we generated, the book says that the traffic volume in a peak hour in the morning would be 17 trips. Again, there's a trip going in and a trip going out. So if a car comes in and out the same hour, they're actually counted twice. 17 in the morning, 17 in the evening, peak hours, and then 27 on a Saturday where you have a little bit more activity going in and out.
So like you said, that could be 17, could be just 9 people coming to their unit.
Yep, and eight leaving. Some people could be there for 10 minutes. Some people maybe moving in. They're in there for an hour or so. I would state though, the ITE has data that goes back to 1993 for this use, and what we've actually seen is a trend over the last few years that the amount of traffic at these uses is actually significantly less more recently. When I look at data from 2010 to today in the ITE, the number drops almost about a third. So again, instead of 17 trips, I'd have to do the math in my head, but it's probably about 13 or 14. And we actually have done some recent counts at some operating sites in the general area. We did a count of an existing self-storage building in Bridgewater on Route 28 and an existing self-storage building on Route 206 in Hillsborough. And again, what we saw at those sites, specifically the Hillsborough site, which is 140,000 square feet, so significantly larger than this one. That one only generated 10 trips in the morning, 11 in the evening, and 17 on the Saturday. So again, it does show these sites in operation. Even a bigger site generates less than even what the IT says. And again, I think that is related to the way these buildings are being used nowadays as opposed to 20, 30 years ago where maybe they were used a little more often. Now it's almost a set it and forget it. You got a nice climate-controlled building. You put, whether it's your old albums in there or old furniture, and you leave it in there, and you pay that bill, constantly every month, and then maybe 5 years later you remember that there was something in there you wanted to get, or some business record you were audited on. So, again, very, very low trip generation. In our assessment, what we included was also a comparison to the previous use, which was the diner. Obviously, diner has not been in operation for at least 10 years now. So I'm not saying that, all those trips are being generated on the roadway. They're not. But a similar permitted use, which again would be the diner here, would generate significantly more traffic than what we are proposing. Again, I think the diner, based on the ITE of that size, would have generated 73 trips in the morning instead of the 17 we're proposing. On a Saturday, it's 96 trips, about 45 customers in and out, instead of the 27 that we have. So again, permitted use previously there. If someone wanted to reopen or rebuild the building for that use, we're significantly less traffic than that type of use. Same thing with other permitted uses here. Daycare is permitted. Daycares, a typical daycare would generate about 100 trips in a peak hour, those children going in and out. A medical office building also permitted here. A restaurant, if Tommy's Tap House goes in this location, you're talking about, some Friday, Saturday nights of, 90 trips going in and out. Again, we're clearly less than that. So from a traffic perspective, in terms of trips going in and out, significantly less than permitted uses, and really, again, on that low end of the scale. And we have driveways that, will operate perfectly fine, being located, nice between two signalized intersections. In terms of the DOT review, we did file for a letter of no interest, and we did receive DOT approving that letter of no interest from August. We could provide that correspondence to your board's professionals so that they could have that for their records as well. So again, the DOT has blessed the access management plan that we have proposed. And again, they agreed that this is not a significant increase in traffic. In fact, it's a reduction in traffic. In terms of parking, again, this is the type of use that having low traffic, you would also have a low need for parking. People are not hanging out on this type of site, and it has very low employee rates. Again, typically you would have 1 or 2 employees at any one time. When you're kind of leasing up, maybe 2, and then once you hit kind of normal operations, you'd have 1 on the site at any one time. What we are showing here is a total of, I would say, 14 parking stalls. 8 of them are in front of the 8 roll-up units. Again, there's nothing that precludes someone from utilizing one of those spaces that don't have one of those roll-up units. They're not drive-in units. It's just convenient for those 8 people. So again, anyone would be able to park in any of those 14 parking spaces. And then where we're looking at the plan, the left side of the building is where we have for any type of larger vehicles. I know there were some questions regarding the clearance under the building. I believe you'll hear from the architect that the clearance is anywhere between 13 and 14 foot clear. Your 20-foot U-Haul truck, which is your standard U-Haul truck, that's 11-foot clearance it needs, so clearly could drive under the building. Even if you have a 26-foot U-Haul, which they advertise as that's for like a 3 to 5 bedroom house, you could fit that under that as a 12-foot clearance. So again, any of those type of vehicles would have no problem circulating the site. And again, they would basically park in the left-hand side in that hatched area, and then there's an entrance door, and you'll hear from the architect in terms of internal circulation within the building, but you could basically access the elevators to the internal units from either the parking lot side, or I'm going to say the loading area side. And again, that circulation is more than sufficient. We did counts at those sites in Bridgewater and Hillsborough, again, and found that the parking ratios that we have here, it would be able to fit their max parking demand at those, again, 2 nearby sites. So the parking that we have on this site is sufficient for the expected parking demand. So overall, again, in reviewing this site from a traffic perspective, the big key here is very low amount of traffic coming in and out of the driveways. The circulation pattern has been designed sufficiently. DOT has given us a letter of no interest. And again, the parking does meet what we see in the nearby sites in Hillsborough and Bridgewater for expected parking demand.
Okay, all site distances are safe at the driveways?
Yes, coming out of the driveways, again, this building is set, I know it doesn't meet the setback, but it's set far enough back that if you're waiting at the stop bar to get onto Route 206, the building's essentially behind you. You have clear sight lines. I would mention, I want to put on the record, and talking to the applicant and hearing some concerns from some of the members of the public, since it relates to access, we have no problems putting up a gate that would close in after hours at the entrance driveway to the site. So again, that would be a gate that would prevent anyone from coming into the site when the site is closed. So I know there were some concerns about security. I just want to hit that as part of the kind of access to the site, that they would not have open access when the site is closed.
And Matt, all the parking spaces are appropriately sized in your opinion?
Correct. They're appropriately sized. Again, the standard spaces are, and then we have that loading area along the left-hand side of the building, which would be able to fit, anywhere between 1 or 2 of those larger U-Haul trucks if 2 people arrived with them at any one time.
All right, and the application complies with ADA requirements for parking?
Yes.
Okay. All right, that's all I have for Mr. Steckler.
Anyone from the board have any questions of Mr. Steckler's testimony?
I just have one about the gate.
Yep.
I think a gate makes a lot of sense. My only concern is if someone comes and the gate's down, are they gonna have to back out onto the highway? How do they internally turn around so we don't have a back out or a K-turn onto the highway?
Yeah. Again, we would only close it when the site is closed, which I think is 10 p.m. Obviously, backing on the Route 206 is never easy, even at 10 p.m. We would have to look to see if we could create a turnaround spot in front of where a gate would be.
A K-turn.
A K-turn spot or something wider, a little wider cutout so the vehicle
So a
would turn
truck
around.
pulls up, he's on the site, the gate's down, now he's gotta get out.
Yeah.
The facility's closed. So, I think the gate makes a lot of sense,
I
but
mean, luckily, there's an egress lane there also right now, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, so like you said, we could just provide like that hammerhead turnaround or
Right.
something like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, we're designing on the fly here just because of the comment, but it's something that we'll obviously have to show you how that maneuver would work, but we would put a hammerhead or some way to turn around.
yeah,
Not that far from the traffic light.
Yeah, traffic light is right there.
you're talking about the,
Orlando.
Orlando Drive.
Not that far.
Right, the concern is anybody pulling on the site, how do you get out of the site without backing onto the road? That's
Right.
what we're trying to accomplish. And the hammerhead's a nice way of saying just a space to do a K-turn.
Yeah, and it may just need to be a little 5-foot indentation that you would basically use to kind of turn around to come back out. And again, we'll have to engineer it, we'll try to have to move some vegetation or propose vegetation to make it fit.
Yeah, it's a concern of if the entrances to this, I'll call it a garage, is open all the time, then you might have noise. But if the gates come down, we'll hear from the architect, and then you don't have the noise. Everything's self-contained. So from a noise pollution standpoint, it makes a lot of sense, from my opinion, to have the gates down. So you don't have it open all the time.
So
But that has an operational, I understand that's,
from a traffic perspective, I would only want to have the gate when we're down, when we're closed, because if it's down all the time and you have to, let's say, do a fob, which you see at some sites, where we're located on 206, my thing that I'd be nervous about would be if someone's waiting, fumbling to get the keypad, and someone else comes behind, all of a sudden they're on 206. So that's my concern with this site for it all the time down. But again, for the after 10 p.m., just to prevent hooligans from hanging out at the site, I think that's an appropriate measure.
what about the egress from the facility onto the one-way? Could that be down all the time? Because that's one way out only.
To me, that's egress only, so I wouldn't think anyone would use it.
Right.
And again, that doesn't go right under the building, which would lend itself to an easy gate location. So I would rather not put one on that side of the building. But again, obviously, we've heard the concerns. It's something that, it sounds like we're going to be working together to make a change.
I'm just suggesting the gate from a noise, so purely a impact on the surrounding area from, if you look at light, we addressed the light, now it's the noise, obviously it's enclosed, so forth, yeah.
Okay. Anyone else have any questions of Mr. Steckler's testimony? Anyone from the audience have any questions of Mr. Steckler's testimony?
Joe Pomar, 77 Washington Place. And thanks for your testimony, Mr. Steckler. Question for you. So we've talked about the proximity to the light at Orlando Drive. So what if you were to flip the floor plan? Would you, as a traffic engineer, have see anything, that would make it, hard to do or of a poor design to flip it so that that open drive at the north end of the property right now moves to the south side, and the ingress egress would move further north on your site plan. So essentially flipping it.
So you're saying building essentially stays the same, just the driveways
Correct.
change in terms of their.
Correct. And the reason I say that is because people come in there, they're going to be egressing probably with an empty box truck, and then you have your garbage truck coming in and out. We don't know how often that's going to be. That's at the north end, closest to the residential neighborhood. If it were on the south side, I'm guessing those box trucks get a little loud when they're empty, and they kind of bounce off the property. So that might be a solution. It also pushes your entrance where you're going to have the gate and the K turn or the hammer turn a little further from the traffic light at Orlando Drive.
I don't see an issue with the way the site is designed currently. I also, again, your option of flipping it, I also don't see as being, again, on the fly, any specific detriment. But again, also, a U-Haul coming to the site, I would say they're I don't want to say just as likely to come and leave empty and come and leave full. Someone who is, had left something in the building and now moving it to their new house, maybe leaving with all their equipment.
Right,
But again,
right.
I think when we get into the further discussion in terms of where that activity is, in terms of up along Route 206, it is significantly far from where the residential developments are in the rear of the site. If the building was, let's say, where that parking area was more pushed back, I could see there being more of, let's say, a noise concern. But again, all that activity is up, within 50 feet of the front property line and nowhere near the rear. And I do think the dumpster, again, we're going to talk about bringing that instead of having it all the way back to the front as well. So,
but that north drive is actually, according to the site plan we looked at earlier, 200 feet, which is approximately less than 70 yards from the houses.
right, but when we eliminate the dumpster, I think that the length that it goes back to the site likely can be limited as well. So in terms of where that end of pavement will be, will
Right.
likely be moved closer to 206 if the dumpster moves closer to the building.
Okay, I acknowledge we're kind of designing on the fly here, so, but I thought I would throw that out.
Yep.
Anyone else from the audience have any questions of the testimony given by Mr. Steckler?
I just got one thing, Art.
Yeah.
If you were to reverse that, would you get more light pollution from headlights going down that one driveway into the neighborhood?
Yeah, I do prefer having the headlights facing 206 in that area versus heading into the residential area. Again, I will state, because we're going to talk later on about the vegetative buffer, there is existing buffer there. But again, the white lights going towards the residence would be the case if that was one way going in versus one way going out. You're just getting the tail lights.
Correct.
That's a good point.
Anyone else? Guess not.
Okay. All right, next witness, Mr. Chairman, is our architect, Paul Schwartz. Thanks, Matt.
Evening, Mr. Schwartz, would you please raise your right hand?
Yeah, go ahead.
Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Please state your name and spell your last name for the record.
My name is Paul Swartz, S-W-A-R-T-Z. I'm a senior partner of USA Architects, which is at 20 North Dowdy Avenue in Somerville. Been there for 40 years.
Will your colleague be testifying?
No, just myself.
Okay, very good.
All right,
Mr. Tuvell, your witness, sir?
all right, Paul, do you just want to give your credentials for the board? I know you've testified here before, but if you could just do that briefly.
Yeah, I'm
Mr. Schwartz is well known. We'll stipulate to his
Great,
credentials.
thank you very much. All right,
As a matter
Thanks.
of transparency, Mr. Schwartz and I served on the ARB committee for about,
Long
on
time.
10 years.
Yep. Yeah.
okay. All right, perfect. So, Paul, why don't you get started? I don't know if you want to start with the elevations of the floor plans first, but I leave it up to you on where you want to start on
Sure.
the plans.
So, previous testimony basically talked about the building, roughly about 87,000 square feet. It is a 5-story building. First floor is about a little over 5,000 square feet. The other floors 2 through 5 are each about 20,700 square feet. giving that total of 87,000 square feet. The building will need to be designed to code, total building code. And one of the things that we've looked at since, and maybe we want to mark this as exhibit.
So this is a little bit different than what you had in the packet?
Correct.
All right, so we're up to A3, so let's
Yep,
mark it
A3,
A3.
please.
And Paul, just identify it for the record and who prepared it.
This is a first floor plan, was prepared by my firm. And the major change here is that after, since we've submitted and looking at this, the applicant has basically said that we really only need one elevator and not 3 elevators. So this plan will reflect that. It will also reflect bathrooms on the first floor here. Now, the code basically stipulates that a building like this, you could actually have bathrooms every other floor. I think for the time being, we're probably going to be doing that, so it'll be floors 1, 3, and 5. So that will meet the New Jersey Uniform Construction Code. We are also now, one of the things that's really kind of interesting is that right now, we have a total of 445 units on all floors. That's a bit of a placeholder, because what happens, there's an algorithm that's developed in the future, once we get approval, to say, okay, what do we need? What size units do we need? So that they range in different sizes. But that ultimately will be determined once the final need is looked at. But for the time being, we've got 445 units that are placed in all 5 floors. In terms of some of the, you may want to go to the second floor. So you can see on the first floor, basically, we were looking at the back. What Matt just testified to is the units that are right on grade, parking right behind it. That would open up into the area. And then other units, we've got the elevator and the bathroom, the toilet, the office for the front office. The main lobby is on the right-hand side here, the main entrance into the lobby. And then the rest of it, as has been previously testified, is that we've got a parking area in the back along with turning radiuses for all the different trucks that would be coming here. And if we end up moving the dumpster inside, it'll be plenty enough room for any kind of maneuvering from any kind of truck that'll be there. One of the things that we've talked about, and I think, from a security perspective, and I believe the applicant, Mr. Natali, is okay with this, is that we could provide gates on both this exit in this point as well as the main entrance here. Now, they would be slotted gates in order to meet the stormwater regulations, but at least they could come down, especially at 10 o'clock, or, they'd open up at 6 o'clock in the morning, and they would just, be in place at night so no one can get into the building. It is, as you noted, the entire perimeter does have a wall that comes down all the way to the grade, so there will not be any perpetrators that should be able to come into the building after hours. Next floors, you can kind of see again, typically, again, this is a typical.
Paul, just indicate what sheet this is, I'm sorry.
This is typical floors 2 through 5.
Got it, okay.
Okay, and again, in this case here, we've got, as one, it was noted earlier, the one stair tower on the back corner was not indicated on the site plan. It will be. It obviously has to come to grade. All the stairs have to come down to grade.
Just want to confirm, these are essentially what you submitted to the board, correct?
Yes, except for the exception with that we're now going with only 1 elevator and not 3 elevators. But for the most part, it's basically the same.
Yeah, so this set is how many sheets? How many sheets is, you did the first one, now this one?
Yeah, the same.
All right, so just to be clear, Cliff, I don't know if this is where you're going, A3 consists of 5 sheets that.
Right, okay.
Got it, okay.
Yep.
Just want to clarify that,
Yep.
thank you.
No problem.
You got it. So again, 1 elevator is all that's necessary. Again, the toilet core is shown on the typical plan. As we noted, it'll be on floors 1, 3, and 5. And that'll meet the code. One of the comments that was made by Michael was the fact is, do we have enough clearance? So right now, the floor-to-floor heights, and maybe go to the elevations. And I'm not a big fan of elevations before, but I like the renderings better because this looks more architectural, and a lot of people have maybe a little bit problem maybe reading it, but you can, the important takeaway on this is that first floor, or from grade to the top of the second floor is 16 feet. We were expecting that we'll get at least 14 feet of clearance. That'll include everything. It'll include the storage units, it'll include space for structure, for any kind of ductwork that'll be in there, and enough room in order to allow our sprinkler heads to come down inside that space, not only on the 16 feet, but also the other floors, which were at 12 feet. So one of my key staff members is a licensed Class 1 code official. So she reviewed the plans with me prior to prior to tonight's meeting, and we'll definitely fully comply with that. In fact, the top of the storage units have a mesh, so in the event of there's a fire, God forbid, the sprinklers will be able to penetrate into the various storage units. Let me go to the next page. One of the things maybe go to the elevations. One of the things I really like this building, Dylan was the designer of it. I happen to like this. Architecture or art is kind of like beauty in the eyes of the beholder. But one of the things I think this building's got is great street presence. Essentially, it's going to be, in fact, maybe we could show the materials. It'll be a split face block at the lower level, and then it's going to be a vertical metal panel, as was noted in Michael's report. And then, so the idea it begins to create sort of a nice 5-story, 70 to 72 foot presence along 206. So for me, it has a nice sense of presence along the street there. It's going to be a really nice looking building. I have to give kudos to our applicant because he's willing to spend money. I think this looks better than any other public or any storage facility I've seen around the country. And again, as you note, metal panels. One of the things that we probably need to clean up for the final submission is that the intention is not to be able to see into the building. So maybe go to the night shot. So right now we are actually showing that you're able to see through it, but the idea is to have a carpet or some kind of reflector or some kind of glass, and we'll come back with a sample of that and what it might look like. But I like the sense of that that middle piece is being vertical, and then you've got some slit windows that that are either in a stair tower or into the actual storage areas themselves. But nicely lit, I think, done very sensitively. Will highlight the building, but again, it's not overbearing and won't be overly done. Other comments? Let me see. Go ahead.
Yeah, just, Paul, just on the screening, can you just speak to the screening of any mechanicals or anything along those
Yep.
lines?
Yeah, so as you note on the renderings here, the height of the parapet sort of varies a little bit. So in the south corner, on the south sort of middle corner, the parapet's slightly raised. Now, let's go back to the roof plan real quick. So the roof, one of the requirements, or one of the things we did was create a roof plan just to show you where the mechanical equipment might be. These are condensing units. They're not real big. I believe that the parapet is, in fact, this is all modeled and computer generated stuff. As you can note from the renderings, you don't see any mechanical equipment. We don't intend to do it. We don't think it's necessary because they're set back far enough, and the parapet's about a 5-foot high parapet, so it'll basically conceal it.
And also, Paul, that's the furthest area away from the residential property.
That's correct, yes.
Okay.
So again, the mechanical equipment, it should not be that large based on the loads that we're anticipating. So we're not going to see it, especially from 206 or from the adjacent neighbors.
And to Michael's question earlier, I know Paul answered it, but you don't see an issue relocating the trash enclosures underneath the building?
Not at all.
Okay.
Not at all.
Okay.
And then provide the gates, which will provide that, again, that sort of level of security as well as reducing the noise,
Okay.
the noise transmission in the area.
Okay, and as it relates to the fire officials' comments, can you speak to those?
Yeah, I have no problem whatsoever with every comment except for one, and I'd be glad to speak with them directly. I don't believe we need exhaust fans in the stair towers, but something I'll be glad, because based on my interpretation from Tara, you know, it doesn't seem to be required.
Okay. But other than that, what you're happy to engage with him on?
Oh, absolutely.
The rest of them were fine?
Everything's fine. The fire suppression, fully suppressed throughout, so the building should be as safe as possible.
I think he was saying, since it was a use variance, that the assumption was a hazardous use, even though the UCC code probably doesn't call it a hazardous
No,
use.
it's an S1.
Right,
correct. It's an
so
S1.
that's where the exhaust fans is, an abundance of caution.
Right.
So it's
Yeah.
not, I understand your comment completely. So some of his comments, I do believe, are code plus because of the D variance in this for the heightened sense of site safety and to protect first responders. That's where that's coming from.
I'd be glad to have a discussion. It's, you know, I'm sure the applicant would have no problem with it. Again, we thought maybe he thought it was a high-rise, and in that
No.
case, it would have been, but it would, because it's close. It's 75 feet becomes a high-rise. So we're, you know, it's not too far away from that. So I'd be glad to have a conversation with him on that.
Okay.
Regarding, let me see if there's anything else I missed on Michael's comments. Again, obviously, we talked about the sprinkler system and the sufficient clearance. I have no problem with the fire marshal's questions. Stair tower that Michael brought up absolutely needs to be shown. The entrances on the elevations, be glad to show that as a curb cut of some sort. Be glad to comply with that.
So the one elevator is gonna be, can accommodate a stretcher.
That's
And
correct.
to answer Mr. O'Neill's comment, it's gonna be, the mechanicals for the elevator are gonna be a traction elevator, or it's not a pit?
It
Or-
won't be a pit. It'll either be a pitless, or we'll have to figure out what makes sense for this. It's a 5-story building. We'll have to figure out what it might be.
The point being, you're not digging, you're not putting a
No.
pit in the ground.
No.
Back to Mr. O'Neill's question.
Correct.
And you don't anticipate any noise issues from the compressors on the roof because of this parapet and for the location?
Parapet, and it's closer towards 206, so it shouldn't have any impact to the neighborhood. I don't know, Michael, did I miss anything that, in terms of your comments? I don't think so, but.
I had a comment about the windowless story, but if it's gonna be fully sprinklered, and that goes back to an aesthetic question that the board was certainly,
Yep.
the metal panels, I understand your comments and, regarding the style of the building,
Yeah.
given its location.
Okay, you know what, that's all I have for Paul.
I've got a question, as usual. How it looks from the highway is fine. I'm still not sure how it will look from Washington Place, the back street there. You know, you've got directional, it's an irregularly shaped building. So what are they looking at? Which piece of this building are they looking at?
A good question. So if you look at the elevations here, this is basically what they would be looking at. Again, obviously, there's I'm very sympathetic to the neighborhood. Again, we're beginning to show it in its context here. The only thing I could suggest, Mr. O'Neill, is that if we have to, maybe we would go over, take a photograph of and then show it what it looks like.
Because quite frankly, I was in East Berlin some time ago. It looks very familiar. You know, the front looks fine. We go around back and it's like old Tucson. I mean, it appears to be, if I think what they're going to see, I think you can do better because I know you're firm.
Okay?
Okay, we'll look at that, Mr. O'Neill.
Yeah, be glad to. I would like to make a comment, if I may, with regard to Mr. Palmieri's, one of his comments. Let's go back to the site plan real quick. I looked at this. I love the fact that it's trapezoidal. From an architect, it was like, oh, this is a cool shape. You know, we get to do something that's interesting, right? But if the applicant wanted to build a mixed-use project, whether it was 9 meters allowable or an office building, we could go 5 stories, or 15 stories. By essentially providing, we'd have to provide parking, a deck, garage, say 4 or 5 stories to whatever is required, and then build on top of that.
I'm not talking about stories.
No, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, you know exactly where I'm coming from.
You just want to make sure that what they're viewing has the same quality materials as what's everybody else is viewing.
Yeah,
And that's-
I know he could do better, I know he can.
Okay. Oh, I'm open to discussion on that. I'd be glad to, come up with some other ideas for the other facades. Right now, you're right, it's a metal, metal building with glass. On the backside, we don't have that, but yeah, be glad to take a look at it.
The other part,
I'm totally an open book
Yeah,
with regard to, you guys have any good, ladies have some suggestions,
the other part to that is although there's a lot of greenery behind it, that's only half the year. I mean, once those trees drop, everybody from Washington Place is gonna have a full view. So
Okay,
unless-
yeah, we'll take,
Yeah,
we understand the
glad to.
comment, we'll look at that.
Anybody else from the board have any questions? Anybody from the audience have any questions of the testimony just given
Members of the interested public?
for the public?
Joe Pomar, everybody's everybody's calling me Palmieri, but no, Pomar. I like Palmieri. It's good though. 77 Washington Place. Thanks for everything. It's a great presentation. Couple of things, just vis-a-vis the mechanicals. What is the enclosure on the roof? What is it made out of?
Right now, we're not showing an enclosure because right now the parapet
Yeah.
is higher than the roof.
Right.
So that 5-foot parapet should conceal those units.
Right.
They're not huge units. They're not like you see, if you ever see the one across the street on 206? That building, the taller building
yeah.
that's on the opposite side?
Yeah.
It's not gonna be those.
Okay, so if I'm just wondering about noise abatement, if there's a possibility of a block enclosure up there.
We couldn't put block up there, but we could put some kind of metal enclosure.
Right. And then another little detail, and I understand the facade question that Mr. O'Neill raised, and be perfectly honest with you, I almost prefer a blank wall without significant lighting, looking over our neighborhood there. But one thought I had was, first of all, for the lighting that's on the non-206 side, could that be shielded and facing down?
Yes.
I noticed you had accent lights
Yes.
kind of washing up the walls.
That was on 206. I don't know what,
Yeah.
but yeah, we will definitely, we don't, do you have the elevations on the back? I don't think so, right? Or rendering. We don't show a rendering necessarily, but yeah, we'll be very sensitive to.
So the vertical strip there, what is that material? Is that a fenestration?
Yeah.
So that potentially could be lit 24/7?
Well, again, the idea with the fenestration is that you won't be able to see through it.
Right.
Into the building.
But would there be light coming through there?
No,
Okay.
That's
So
the intent.
it wouldn't be illuminated
Correct.
overnight?
correct.
Okay.
And again, at 10 o'clock, it's going to be turned off.
And then the last thing, at the risk of designing on the fly one more time here.
Okay.
As I look at the 206 elevation. So, Paul, was there any consideration, and it's a little bit of a pet peeve of mine, so often when we do developments, we have the massing, which is 5 stories throughout the entire footprint.
Yep.
But was there any consideration given to going say 2 stories or 3 stories on the north end of the property? In other words, basically a lower, as it adjoins Washington Place neighborhood, a lower structure that would kind of have the tallest part of it down by the jug handle and the Orlando Place. So I know that
Could you speak into the mic, please?
I'm literally designing on the fly here, but I'm thinking about solving some of the problems of the encroachment on the neighborhood by reducing the massing to the north of on this.
Paul, you're suggesting that the building be stepped?
Yes, correct.
Stepping the building to soften the look up from the residential area?
Exactly right. So stepping up and away from the residential area, highest at the jug handle, which is basically a highway.
Yeah. we can look at it again, right? I know that when these are developed as a pro forma, there's a certain thing that needs to work financially. So again, I don't think we can reduce the overall square footage to accommodate the units. But I don't know. We'll have to take a look at it, whether or not we'd have to go higher along 206 and then go less on the back. I mean, I just don't know if that makes sense from a use perspective.
Right, but you understand the point, right?
I do.
Yeah, so at the risk of designing on the fly here,
Okay.
I thought I'd suggest it
Okay.
because there is a requirement for the board to sign off on this whole thing. So in the spirit of trying to find a compromise, I wanted to throw that out
Okay.
for everybody.
So noted. Okay, thank you. Yep.
Anyone else have any questions?
Nice. Mike Prothero, 85 Washington Place. I guess first question is down on the south side, the side that faces Washington Place. Can you show us again what that first floor would look like? It looked like there was some metal grating there in between the cinder block. What is it? So vertical grills. What exactly does that mean? Is that like light comes through that, sound comes through
Yeah, but it's a
that?
metal-
or-
You've seen like a decorative metal grill.
Okay.
So it might be horizontal or it could be vertical. I think we're showing horizontal, right? Vertical. A vertical grill. So it'd be more of a decorative kind of thing to break up the mass a little bit. That's one of the things we're trying to do.
Yeah. I mean, I guess our interest would be blocking light and sound. So, like, we're not so concerned, like, at that level, it's, light and sound coming through. If that were a solid block, I understand the architectural benefit, and it is a nice looking building from the front. But on the back side, no one's really looking at that except the neighbors in their backyard. So the preference really would be, and what would be the downside to having that being solid on the back side as
It very
different in the
much
front?
can be.
Okay.
We could go with a stucco product or something different, that's, that, for that whole back facade. Yeah, I understand that. Down on the lower level, but up above, I think they're talking about the main facade.
I'm talking about the lower level.
Oh, you know, the lower, I'm
The
sorry.
lower level, because that's really where all the vehicles are coming and going.
I thought you
that's-
were referring to the, yeah.
No, the upper portion was
Yeah, we-
fine. I mean, I had the same question that Joe did about the windows that are there and if there's lighting that's on internally and what time. I think you answered that question, that those shut off by 10 o'clock.
Right.
And we want assurance that, like, the building goes dark at that time.
Yeah. We have to, we're working with the civil engineer to figure out what we need to deal with some of the flood issues. So, but we'll definitely take your comments.
Yeah, some of those items have to
Yeah.
be open because of the flooding, but
right.
we'll take a look at your comment.
Okay. I mean, because there is a big opening on that right side, right, for the
Okay.
exit
That's
from
what
that
we're-
parking lot?
What we're proposing that will provide coiling grills that would close off after
Okay.
hours.
It's my understanding that the garage, I'll call it the enclosed space, is going to be an open garage.
Correct.
Per the UCC code.
Correct.
Which would eliminate mechanical
Correct.
ventilation requirements, would be noise. But the open block, there might be opportunity to put the block opening, not on all sides, but only certain sides.
Right.
There might be some flexibility there. I had suggested that the board have a detail of the flood openings along with the opening to show the exact aesthetics of how this thing works from a UCC perspective and from a floodplain perspective.
Right. Yeah, there's probably a solution that would work there. It's kind of an arrow shape, but the arrow part that's towards the Orlando Drive jug handle, no one's living there. If water or whatever can come in that way, and then you do have an opening on the other side, it's really the side that's facing the neighborhood if that can be cleaned up. The other thing, you mentioned the fire marshal, and we're not privy to what those discussions were, but I guess our thought was, how is the fire department going to deal with in the event of a fire? I don't see any lane around the outside of this building. It goes way deep. I know it's going to have all kinds of fire protection, I'm sure is required by law in there, but where does the fire truck go, and do we have fire equipment that can
The fire marshal
deal with
provided
something this big?
a memo as to what they required.
Yeah.
And And that's what Paul was saying we would comply with.
Yeah.
And that's
Okay, and
public, you
is-
can get that
is-
from the board.
We can get that from the board,
Yeah,
all that
yeah,
information's
Yeah, it's in
available?
the file. Yep.
Okay.
It's rather detailed.
Yeah.
It's in the
It's
file,
well
though.
done.
Okay, yeah, it just looks like something that's very inaccessible from a fire truck, because you got trees all around it. I don't know if a fire truck, no one's gonna drive underneath that in a fire truck if it's on fire. The other part, and I guess I'm thinking of those ones at the bottom, they're 9 feet by 20 feet, I believe, from my drawing. That's big enough for someone to stick a car in there. I'm sure the rules are gonna not allow it, but who's there watching people put stuff in there? You know, God forbid if someone parks a Tesla in there and it catches on fire, this whole building's done.
It's specifically prohibited based on the fire, I mean, it's,
And nobody puts anything that's prohibited in these lockers, right?
well,
No, but the doors are not 9 feet wide, like you can't get through the door. The door is like 6 feet wide,
yeah.
so you can't get a car,
Still-
you can't get a.
Is there a way to make it so that, yeah, something like that couldn't,
No, you can't
go
put
in
cars
there.
in there,
okay.
and I promise you.
The concern from the fire marshals, I shared the
They-
concern. was
okay.
that
They've covered some of that.
highest use possible, because it's gonna, my understanding from talking to the fire marshal is the emergency response equipment will be staged on 206. They're not gonna be coming on site. There's gonna be a remote, FTC,
Yeah.
so they can, the apparatus will not be in the structure. So, and
Okay.
that thought process is why high hazard use, exhaust ventilation, the
Okay.
NFPA 13 system, which has to have an 18-inch clearance, which I think the applicant's agreeing to address this. And back to the comments, I think the applicants agreed to go back and look at softening up the sides of the building facing the residents. Is that
Yes,
what I'm?
that's correct. That's correct.
Okay, and I'll let you know, in my report, to get more details, I had recommended should the board grant approval, going preliminary, so these things get worked out before final. But of course, that's the board's decision. There's a lot of, not a lot, but there's some critical unanswered questions that you have raised and others have raised about the details of how this all is gonna work together.
Okay,
Michael, I have one.
thank you very much.
I have one question. I mean, have we stipulated or have you stipulated in terms of hours of operation as a condition of approval? Because I know there's been discussion about different hours of operation.
Yeah, I
mean,
think we said 6 AM to 10 PM.
6 AM to 10 PM is that, okay, my suggestion would be, though that's certainly up to the board, would be that be made a condition of approval, just because you may not always own this place.
Sure, no, I understand.
What was the 8 AM to 6 PM?
That was the
mentioned
office,
earlier?
6
the
a.m.
office.
That was the office?
Yeah.
Okay. So when the office closes, what happens between the hours of 6 PM and 10 PM? Does that mean there's nobody on site?
But 6 AM
Or-
to 10 PM, isn't it?
Yeah, he means the, he
Well,
means the 4
I read written
hours.
down earlier, somebody had
Well,
mentioned 8
somebody-
AM
yeah,
to 6
I was
PM.
gonna say, let's not confuse it.
So,
Yeah, during those 4 hours?
Yeah.
The building has full security cameras, you can only get in with a key fob. It's fully alarmed.
So now, yeah, we did agree, I think you guys had already said that there were gonna be some gates there. Would they be automatic that with a key fob?
Right, that's what we talked about. I think
Okay.
we'll get to this when we conclude tonight, but I think what we would do is we would add those to the plans, come back, show them to the board so you could see what they look like.
So that covers this.
K-turn, gates come
The
down,
K-turn,
the
yeah.
detail, the
Yeah,
gates,
I'll
the
go
detail.
through, I'll go through all that one.
Yeah. So that would be in effect as soon as the office closes at 6 PM.
You
So if
got it.
someone wants to get in between 6 and 10, they would have a key fob or something to get in there.
Exactly.
Okay, yeah, that
Some
wasn't too clear
security
before.
measure.
Thank you.
Anyone else in the audience?
One more time. Thanks. Verna Samsky, 105 Washington Place. I know I had a map earlier, but I just wanted to make a comment.
Questions?
Question. I thought we could also just make a comment, no?
There'll be time for that.
Mine was just informal to say that we made a little informal progress with the applicant and his assistant, or your person is in the back. When we had the break before, talking about shielding for the Washington Place residences, shielding the view of the tall building and there's encouragement there, that they're willing to talk about fencing and mature trees being planted. So I just wanted to share that if we go in that direction, it's a good thing. Sorry, it wasn't a question.
It's okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you for saying that, though. Thank you.
Just one other question, Joe Pomar, 77 Washington Place. And so Paul, one other thing, talking about the firefighting, fire suppression at the site. Just wanted to throw out one other thing, again, designing on the fly. But if you did reduce the height of the north end of this property, it might make it easier actually to fight a fire at the structure if, for instance, there was a lower portion of the building connected to a higher portion. So not sure, I'll refer to the chief on that, whether that would make it actually easier to fight a fire, but you could certainly get a ladder up onto a lower portion of a building and then kind of address a higher portion. So there could be, you know, as you guys talk about it, another advantage of doing that.
Anyone else have any questions of the testimony?
Another question. Paul, you want to go over the materials you're using to build this building, combustible,
Sure.
non-combustible? Kind of run through
Yeah.
the firematic portion of that.
Yep, so essentially, the building as designed, it's got the split face block, as you can note here, in some range of color there. We can come back with finals once we review it with the applicant, but that'll be the base, and then the metal panel is right here. So that would essentially be the major materials there. And then you have the other, yeah. And that, the fiber cement is sort of that greenish color. Go back to the, there we go. So again, the idea is to try to give some articulation to the facade so that it's not so solid, right? So you can see on the rendering here that we've got the fiber cement product that is highlighted on the green areas here. And then you've got the glass, right? And the glass would be that sort of center area along with some of the vertical fenestration that we're showing. And again, the intent is not to be able to see into the building, especially like at night, so.
And the interior is steel framed?
Yes.
Concrete poured floors?
Yes.
You're decking under the floors?
Yeah, it'll be probably a composite deck with steel, with some kind of steel structure.
So all non-combustible?
Correct. Yeah,
Pretty much the only thing that could probably burn in there is the stuff that's actually stored in the units.
That's correct, yeah. We're probably looking at 2A construction, you know, it's an S1 use, so it'll definitely be non-combustible. So,
Paul,
right, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Okay, you finished? Okay. Paul, you said currently it's going to be designed for 455 units?
Right now, the placeholder is for 445 units.
Per floor.
No, that's the
Total?
That's the total.
Total, okay, sorry.
Correct.
And these are modular?
They're modular, that's correct.
What would be the max that you could put in there?
I can't answer that question. I'd have to defer to the applicant, but depending on, again, once the algorithm is sort of figured out, you know, it could be much smaller units, could be bigger units. Again, it depends on a lot of information from this particular area, so.
Paul, it really depends on market demand, right?
That's correct. That's correct.
What do you think is driving the market?
I'm not,
Yeah, the applicant would really be working with like an expert in that self-storage field to
Yeah.
figure that out at the time. But the box would not change, and the traffic numbers and nothing, it's all based on square footage.
Right.
If you had 18 fewer units, would it make a difference?
In what?
Just 18 fewer storage units, would it make a difference in your algorithm?
Probably one.
I think it's all based on square footage.
All right, the only reason I'm asking that, if you reduce the ones that are depicted on the first floor, you mitigate the flood damage to anybody's potential contents. And all that water stuff goes away. Just throw it out there.
Okay.
It's almost like storage your own risk.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Paul, we didn't touch about this, it wasn't in the application, signage. Freestanding wall signs, there's nothing on this. I would, in my I would prefer to see signage on the final rendering,
That's fine.
just because it's a use variance, should the board approve it. If you don't show signage, you're gonna have to come back
Right,
because
I
it's
got
a
you.
use variance. Right.
Yeah.
So if you're gonna, coming back, should the board be inclined to go preliminary approval for final, if we can address the signage? And
Yeah,
hopefully
we
not a
wanna-
box sign, because the box signs are problematic.
Okay, sorry. Let's finish up with Paul, and then we could talk about like.
I
kind
didn't
of-
know that was Paul, because I don't know if it's on
Yeah.
the building or it's gonna be free.
No, that's fine, that's
Have
fine.
you guys engaged an operator? No,
Not yet.
not yet, okay.
Yeah.
No, I understand.
The idea is we probably will have a pylon sign, and then we will
Yeah.
have some signage on it, but it'll comply to the ordinance.
Right, for final, should they go to preliminary, it'd be nice to see the aesthetics, the signage, everything, so, right.
No one else has any questions? Jason?
All right.
Jason, it's on you.
This is my thought based on where we are now. And this is to address your question about preliminary versus final. I think based on some of the public comment and board comment, there's about a handful of high-level items that everybody wanted us to look at. And I'd rather come back, clean those up, include it, and I'll go over what those are to make sure we're all on the same page. And then we could get preliminary and final if we really, get into the details of those. So what I had was moving the dumpster under the building, looking at what the last, one of the residents said, having some additional buffering along the residential property line there, adding the gate and the K-turn on the sides. Paul, the architect Paul versus engineering Paul, making sure that the glass was opaque, or you couldn't see.
Translucent.
Yeah, translucent, so you couldn't see through it. The view from, I think, Mr. O'Neill's question about softening the look on the residential side, we would look at that. What Michael just said about the signage, the lighting on that residential side, making sure it was cut off. And then, yeah, so those were the main, if anyone has anything else, let me know. But those are the main items that I think the board and the public wanted us to look at. So if we could carry now, come back, show those, I think everybody would feel a lot more comfortable voting on the application. And then I could also have the planner testify with those changes being made, and that'll go to the positive and negative criteria, and I think assist in all the testimony coming together.
Yeah, and that's at the time we'll have the comments from the public.
Sure.
Jason, stormwater management too, if we could show the stormwater management, lighting, if we can clean up the plan.
Yeah, I just have to
based on-
ask Paul, I can ask him now, how long that takes versus the others. Okay, all right, so, yeah, I just thought that would be the longest lead item typically, is those technical engineering comments. But, let's talk about what the next available date is, and then we can figure that out.
June is taken, so it'd be July.
Okay, what date in July?
1st, 15th, or 29th?
It would be the third, not the first.
Okay. No, I always have them, try to have them available.
Are you? Well, I guess it would be then both dates are open, whatever the board's pleasure is.
Is July 1st?
We're talking about July.
Is July 1st okay for everybody? Did that give you enough time?
Good for me.
Okay.
Very good.
Paul, you're good?
I prefer later, but that's kind of a way that, but, yeah.
Let's go later.
Okay.
Got the
Well-
1st, 15th, and
Yeah, I can't do
15th.
the 15th. Could we just carry to the first now, and we'll try to figure it out? Is that okay?
Yep.
Okay.
did we do
You want to carry it to the 1st?
Yes, July 1st.
1st of July.
Okay.
Okay. So this will continue on the 1st of July.
Right. There will be no further public notice. And on July 1st, the application will resume at this, at 7 o'clock in this location.
Okay, with no further, so just to be clear, application's being carried, no further notice, July 1st, 2026, 7 PM in this
We were-
room.
And we're good on time.
All right, sounds good.
No, that's a good question.
Sir, what was your question? I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Please come forward and ask it.
Sure, I will. Sorry about that. But in
terms of the list of items to address for the next meeting, we did talk about possibly looking at the massing of the building. Can we add that to the list?
Okay.
Thank you. Thanks.
All right,
Sorry
thank
about
you.
that.
Yeah. Jason, the time to act,
Oh, yeah, we would extend that through,
please do.
yeah, through July. So just send me like if you want me to sign something.
I'll have
that's-
Ryan send you an email and you can
That's fine.
respond to it or something, okay?
All right, so 7 PM on that date in this room. We'll see you there.
That's correct.
Okay. Thank
All
you.
right, thank you very much.
And as much time as you can give me.
To review the
So
plans?
everybody's in favor of carrying this through July?
Okay, great. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you very much.
Jason, anything? The other Jason.
That was the last hearing. It's on the discussion now.
Jason, if you have any other questions or any concerns, give me a yell. Thank you. Interrupting everything.
Next meeting, yeah. So, have your neighbor get that. All right.
Right, but it's.
Okay, is there
but
anything
let
else
me-
to come before the board?
You should be here in person. I mean, written comments.
Someone like to move for adjournment?
Well, can you find another,
Move second, all in favor?
represented by council or something like this? Because just submitting comments doesn't mean, first of all, I mean, of course, the board will read them, but it is preferable, and it's also preferable under the law that you are here to articulate